charging all day.
Okay, everybody, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Stuart City Commission at 4 p.m. on November 9th. Ms. Kindle, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Meyer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Bruner,
Here.
Commissioner Matheson, Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's arts moment is a recording, I understand, by a local saxophonist, Mr. Daniel Lee.
Jim?
Vice Mayor, Jim Karolski for the record, Community Services Director. Daniel Lee is a saxophone player. I've known Daniel for a long time, and he's played with everyone from the Temptations to some of the Four Tops through his career as a pop artist, but he's also a gifted jazz sax player. So in this presentation, you'll see some of his jazz improvisation with a song called Mr. Magic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karolski. got another one for you guys. Let's see if you got.
Okay,
Man, thank
Okay.
you.
that was certainly a lot easier than bringing the whole band in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. And
Wow.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Daniel is at IRSC. He works up there in Fort Pierce and he couldn't be here. I asked him to send someone, I don't know if there's anyone in the audience here, but we just want to thank him. He may even be watching us. Want to thank him and know that we have a certificate for him and we'll get that out to him.
Thank you,
So,
Vice Mayor. Wow, what a talent. Reminds me, I don't know, it was a jazz radio station that I used to listen to as a kid. I was a weird kid, obviously. What was it called? I Love 94, Smooth Jazz. Does anyone remember
Love
that?
94.
Yeah. Sounded like he could, or maybe he did play on that jazz station. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to our proclamations. Our first of the evening is Florida Recycles Week for November 9th through the 15th, 2020. Mr. Mortel?
Proclamation Florida Recycles Week, November 9th through 15th, 2020. Whereas the city of Stuart recognizes the importance of protecting and preserving our natural resources and adopting conscientious habits that will improve our daily lives and bring about a cleaner, economical, and more sustainable environment. And although there has been a significant amount of recycling in the city of Stuart to date, we must continue to focus our initiatives: waste reduction, composting, the reuse of product and materials, and repurchasing recycled products. And whereas by encouraging businesses, state agencies, nonprofit organizations, schools, and individuals to celebrate Florida Recycles Week 2020, we can further promote recycling as a daily environmentally efficient and economically smart habit. And whereas state and community leaders can help encourage recycling by informing citizens about local recycling options, they can also help foster greater awareness of the need to expand collections programs by promoting the benefits of recycling for businesses and the environment, as well as partner with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to help launch a statewide Rethink, Reset, Recycle public education campaign designed to educate Floridians about curbside recycling. And whereas it is important that all City of Stuart citizens become involved in recycling activities and learn more about the many environmentally friendly recycled and recyclable products available to them as consumers, it is also fitting for the City of Stuart to celebrate Florida Recycles Week 2020 and take action by educating citizens and businesses about the recycling options available in our community. Now, therefore, I, Michael J. Mayer, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 9 through 15, 2020 as Florida Recycles Week.
And receiving the proclamation is Ms. Ann Ellig, our Program Manager for the Utilities and Engineering Department.
You use recycled paper? They use recycled paper for that certificate.
His phone has three, does it have, is that three cameras on his phone?
Yes.
Is that the new one, Michelle?
Thank you, Mayor Meyer, Vice Mayor Clark. I'm very pleased to accept this proclamation. Normally, we have America Recycles Day, November 15th. This year, we have a whole week to lend additional emphasis to recycling efforts. So I would just like to remind our residents that we do have a drop-off recycling facility for our e-waste located on Georgia Avenue. And then, as always, in our local curbside program, we ask residents and commercial businesses to please just get back to the basics. When in doubt, throw it out. Do not put it in your recycle cart unless you are sure that it is a recyclable item. So we're always looking for the clean cardboard, glass, tin, your tin cans, plastics numbered 1 through 9, and any item that you think you should not put in, again, when in doubt, throw it out. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next, we have a proclamation for Farm City Week, a subject near and dear to my heart, for the week of November 18th through the 25th, 2020. Mr. Mortel?
Whereas Florida farmers and ranchers help feed the world by producing a bounty of nutritious foods by relying on essential partnerships with urban and rural communities to supply, sell, and deliver finished products to consumers across Florida and around the globe. Rural and urban communities working together have built our nation's rich agricultural resources so that they contribute to the health and well-being of our country and the strength of our economy. And whereas during Farm City Week, we recognize the importance of this cooperative network. Agriculture and related enterprises employ more than 2 million workers, including farmers and ranchers, shippers, processors, marketers, retailers, inspectors, and others who contribute to an annual impact of $146 billion to Florida's economy. And whereas as they perform their daily work, farmers and ranchers preserve freshwater recharge areas, wildlife habitat, and green space. Consumers help farm families maintain their superior natural resource conservation practices by purchasing Florida's agricultural products. And whereas Farm City Week activities celebrate the mutually beneficial relationships that support the quality of life we all enjoy. As we gather with family and friends around the Thanksgiving table, we count these relationships among our many blessings, and we commend the many Floridians who work hard and ingenuity provide us with food, abundance, and reflect the true spirit of our state and nation. Now, therefore, I, Michael J. Meyer, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 8th through 25th, 2020 as Farm City Week in the City of Stuart, Florida, and call upon all citizens to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of all those who, working together, produce and supply our community, our nation, and the world with an abundance of agricultural products.
And receiving today via Zoom, if he is attending, is my friend, Mr. David Hafner, who is the president of the Martin County Farm Bureau. Yes, Mr. Hafner, would you like to say a few words?
Please. Thank you very much, Mayor Meyer, Vice Mayor Clark, and fellow commissioners. Like you said, my name is David Hafner. I'm president of Martin County Farm Bureau. I want to thank you very much for issuing this proclamation today. As the proclamation reads, Farm City Week celebrates the symbiotic relationship between farmers and ranchers and the people who eat the food and wear the fiber that they grow. Earlier this year, people were very frightened about their shortened food supply and were really searching, trying to find that local food and really get to know their farmer, as Mayor Meyer well knows with his work at Collab Farms and their direct-to-consumer sales. Farm City Week is all about highlighting that need for people to know their farmers and get to know the food system so they don't feel that panic. Getting to know their farmers will help so they can know how the products they rely on daily are grown and how they arrive in their stores and on their kitchen table. In Martin County, we have a few great resources for people to get better acquainted with their farmers and their food supply. One is through the Martin County Tourism. They have a website called growninmartin.com. There's also an accompanying Facebook page that highlights Martin County's agritourism operations. Another option is the UF IFAS extension here in Martin County. They're a great resource to connect people with farmers and learn about agriculture. And lastly is the Martin County Farm Bureau. Also, you can find on Facebook and Instagram. Basically, all three of those, if you were to send a message, you would ultimately come to me. So I encourage anybody to message those pages and ask questions. That's all I can ask. Just ask questions, and we'll get you connected with what you're looking for. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Hafner. We all appreciate the hard work that you do to promote our important agricultural economy throughout the state and in Martin County. Ms. Kendall, if you'd let the record reflect that Commissioner Matheson has joined us as of 4:14 p.m. And then finally, our final proclamation of the day is Small Business Saturday, another subject near and dear to my heart, November 18th, 2020. Mr. Mortel.
Proclamation Small Business Saturday, November 28, 2020. Whereas the City of Stuart celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States SBA, 31.7 million small businesses in the United States represent 99.9% of all firms with paid employees. are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of U.S. small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. 65% of U.S. small business owners said it would be most helpful to their businesses to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of U.S. consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and support their community. And whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at a small independently owned business supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And consumers agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported that the day makes them want to shop or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas the city of Stuart supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities and advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Michael J. Meyer, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday in the City of Stuart, Florida, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. I do not have a recipient here, but, well, I guess I do. Great.
Candace?
Oh, yes, thank you. Candace with the Stuart Main Street. And Mark with Vine and Barley.
Come on.
Well, thank you, commissioners, for this. As you all know, this summer was pretty rough for most small businesses in the area, if not all of them. And I can say that on behalf of DBA, we're very happy with what the city has done to help everybody out this summer as far as small businesses go. It's still tough. We still need help. But what the city has done, we're very pleased. Probably couldn't have done it without that. So let's just keep working to help all small businesses, especially for this next 6 months or so. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to our service awards for the month of November. With 30 years of service, we have H. Bobby Kindle of Public Works and Utilities and Engineering.
Come on, Mary.
Mary told us she wanted to say a few words.
Your wife didn't even give you a standing ovation. Oh yeah, now she wants to get in the picture.
Get on in there, Mary, go.
Come on in. Thank you. Everybody, the whole family.
Oh, how wonderful that is.
Get her in the picture.
Oh my God, we went to 3 cameras. Mary, did you want to say some words for him?
And Mayor will cover the speech.
Oh, that's nice. How many years?
Okay, next with 25 years of service, we have Mr. Donald Lesko of the Fire Department, who I understand is not able to be in here in person today, but we'll give a round of applause. Mr. James Allen with Public Works and Utilities and Engineering, 5 years of service. Oh, he changed his
There we go.
mind.
You gotta take her.
I'd just like to thank the city of Stuart for giving me this opportunity to grow my knowledge in the water treatment. We've done a lot in the last few years and we got a lot more to go. But I would also just like to thank Bobby. When I first came in, we're pretty close as I have 5 years, he has 30, but I'd like to thank him for kind of helping me along, showing me the ropes, and on an everyday basis, we work together. So the teamwork is one of the things I've really noticed about working here. And hopefully it will continue as Bobby stays along for another 30 years.
Next, we have Ms. Panal Gandhi Savdas with the Development Department for 5 years of service.
It's not cumulative, so you can add it back.
Thank you so much for this service award. It's been a pleasure working for the city of Stuart for 5 years. I actually started with the city of Stuart in 2006 to 2011 when I left. But I really truly enjoy working here. Thank you for the opportunity to work in the CRA. I get to do what I love to do. Kev is a big supporter. He helps me with my CRA vision and helps me grow in my career. He's been with me since 2006. And thank you to all of you for always supporting me and my vision for the CRA. Thank you.
And finally, this evening, we have Ms. Leanne Jones of Public Works, Utilities and Engineering for 5 years.
When you're at a football game, you look up and you see the owner.
Family.
All right, everybody knows how much I love this. So I wrote a few notes just so I don't forget. First, I want to thank everybody, the commissioner, mayor, vice mayor, thank you very much. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to work for this beautiful city of Stuart, which I fell in love with in 1986. So we've been here a while. I want to thank my group of colleagues, which are now my friends. I think we're a great team. I know we're a great team. And I just want to thank them. And I want to thank you guys very much for this award.
Thank you.
And I can't believe it's been 5 years.
And for our Employee of the Month for the month of November, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kev Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it is my great pleasure today to have Michelle Jett nominated as Employee of the Month for November 2020. And she's been working on a lot of projects, and you're going to get a full list of those in a moment. So she's become really the representative in the city for the geographic information system. And she really took on a position that was newly formed, and the city manager had a vision to create a hub for data and representation of that data in the city. So over the last year, Michelle has worked on the following things. She's worked with technology services to upgrade the city's entire GIS platform, including the database, desktop software, and online environment. She's created public information mapping, including flood zones, recycling, trash pickup, zoning, future land use maps. She's worked very closely with external consultants in ensuring the city limits are actually the city limits. She's restructured the Public Works database. She's created the Stuart GIS app and Public Works web app. And doing that, she's retired the Selfish Compass, which was a very outdated system that we were using. Created the Downtown Stuart Historical Properties Tour, and I think you've been witness to that. That was really quite an impressive project. She's provided GIS support for the implementation of Public Works asset management. She's updated the Public Works database with a backlog of infrastructure data, and that was a huge task. Created an app for post-hurricane building inspection, created an app for backflow inspections. To keep our building inspectors off the roofs during inspections, she's created an app which works with a drone. She's provided park maps for community services. She's provided GIS support for Public Works for their software implementation. I'm running out of breath. She's provided GPS location of burial sites in Moore Cemetery and the creation of a web app to track plot sales. And more than that, she's just continually looking to learn and progress and push herself. And she does online training without being asked to do so. She's really into expanding her knowledge. So she's also, with doing all this, she's working on a project which is quite exciting. She's starting to work on a 3D model of areas of the city, which will better enable us to show and demonstrate the impact of development in certain areas. So we're looking at doing that. That's quite an exciting project. And well, if this wasn't enough, this is only her first year with the city. Michelle is also part of the team of 10 who worked on the mission to develop a draft city sustainability plan. And so for all those reasons, and I'm sure I've missed a few, which is incredible, I respectfully request that you ask Michelle to come forward and be deservedly recognized as the city's Employee of the Month for November 2020.
Yes, please do, Michelle.
Hello, I'd like to say thank you to all of you and all of you that were around to hire me back a year ago. This has always been a very exciting opportunity for me to just take something that you knew needed some work and you gave me that opportunity to do what I could with it. So I really appreciate that. I've really enjoyed getting to know all of the different departments of the city. I've met so many people and I've got to do so many cool projects because they saw what I could do and they actually embraced it, which is very important to me. And I'm also very thankful to have Kev as my supervisor. He's always been there to support me and to make sure that I had everything I need to get what I had to do done. So thanks again.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. So in the last couple meetings, we've discussed our sustainability action plan, and we recognized Ms. Ann Ellig at last meeting for her work. But today we wanted to present certificates of appreciation to all of those members on the Sustainability Committee. So what I'll do is read off the names, and if you would please come up, we'll applaud for each of you. Come up and stay up, and then we'll take a big group photo together if you wouldn't mind. First is Michelle Aruzal. Bruce Duncan. Ann Ellig, of course. The one and only Ben Hogarth. Michelle Jett. Mary Kindle. John Lapadula. Stephen Mayer. Mr. Dave Peters. And Ms. Christina Weinman. Yeah, we'll have to get a picture with you.
This used to be my role. I'm assuming it back.
Ben's phone has 3 cameras.
Yeah. This is still an 8, but I have an app. All right.
That's a good group of people.
Everybody smile with your eyes. 1, 2, 3. We could just get a couple. All right, thank you.
During our business meeting later this evening, we will discuss the Sustainability Action Plan, the first draft. And for those of you who have not been here, as we've discussed it in the last couple of meetings, I just wanted to reiterate the reason we're recognizing over and over again staff are participating in the Sustainability Action Plan is because this group of staff went above and beyond their normal duties, which were already a full-time job, because they cared deeply about our sustainability initiative and knew that if they weren't going to do something about helping bring Stuart forward and make it more resilient for the future, then nobody else would. So it really is a testament to our staff, to those of you who have participated. I can't thank you enough for taking on those additional responsibilities. It just shows that that government work sometimes is very, very good work. So thank you for what you've done. Okay, we'll move on to the presentation of the historic marker to John Edgar and Patricia Sherrard, owner of the historic building, the Whole House.
Thank you, Pinal Gandhi Savdas, Sierra Administrator. I'm just going to introduce this item. We typically do this dedication on site, but times are different right now, so we've decided to present it to the property owner at the meeting tonight. This structure is located in downtown Stuart. It was built in 1913. It's located at 34 Southeast 5th Street, just across from Kiwanis Park. Although we have many historic buildings in the city of Stuart, this is the second one listed in our local register list. Ms. Julie Priest did a lot of research and contributed to the text that's on the historic marker. We will be presenting this marker to the property owner today, and we will install the marker in front of the building, close to the sidewalk, so people can easily read and read the information that's on the marker. And Julie, please take it over.
Thank you. Excuse me 1 second as I loosen this from my earring. My husband has a similar problem with his hearing aids. Thank you, Pinal, for the introduction. I would like to start by saying hello, Mayor and honorable members of the board and all present. Sandy Thurlow and Alice Luckhart contributed towards this project. Sandy is here, and Alice, I don't know where she is. Okay, let me start. This is an adaptive reuse of John Edgar Sherrard's law office established 1981. Reuben Russell Frazier married Margaret in 1870 and moved from the north to Jacksonville around 1880, to Sanford about 1884, and to Potsdam, which is Stuart, in 1887. The United States issued a land patent for 160 acres on April 10th, 1894 to Reuben. In 1895, Reuben was appointed supervisor of schools for Potsdam. Margaret and Reuben donated 1/2 acre to the Dade County School Board. Remember, we were Dade County in those years, for a new school to be named Belle Flora School, honoring their daughters. And Frazier was awarded the contract to build the 20 by 30 frame schoolhouse that was completed in 1896 on the existing Courthouse Cultural Center site. In 1908, Margaret sold the adjoining 1 acre for $150 to the Dade County School Board. Reuben suffered health problems caused by his service in the Union Army During the Civil War, he became a pineapple farmer. Margaret was a charter member of the Women's Club that was incorporated on May 23rd, 1914, and she also served as president. They were prominent early settlers, actively involved with the community, and Margaret's pioneer home overlooked Fraser Creek. That home was demolished rather recently. It was over on US 1, part, I believe, of the ACOC operation. So this is one reason why it's so good that we honor the structures that are still with us. After Reuben's death, Margaret subdivided sections of the land and platted Woodlawn Park on March 4th, 1913. That included the park renamed Kiwanis Park in 1989. Lucas the landman, with offices in Stuart and West Palm Beach, was responsible for selling the lots. J.A. and S.F. Lucas were witnesses to the plat signing. On February 28, 1913, Margaret sold lots 1 and 2 in Block 2 of Woodlawn Park to Lottie Hull for a new residence that would not cost less than $800, a deed restriction. This was a protective deed restriction placed in every contract and deed. Lucas had a force of men at work clearing the land, grading roads, planting grass and shrubbery, installing sidewalks, and constructing homes. Please understand that at the time, it did not look anything like it did now. It was essentially a forest. Stuart's Little Eden, Woodlawn Park, was to be the prettiest suburban tract on the East Coast. Mrs. B.F. Hull of Hypaluxo was the first to buy lots in Woodlawn Park. By May of 1913, B.F. Hull and Lottie Hull were residing in one of the first homes built in the attractive Woodlawn Park subdivision, facing the park that contained a, quote, magnificent array of arches that formed the entrance to the park proper, with artistic cement walks in profusion, leading in every direction in and about the park and around the fine octagon building in the center. That pagoda bandstand was also used for meetings. The Hull home was one of 23 new homes built in growing Stuart in 1913. The City Council received the deed to Woodlawn Park from J.A. Lucas in February 2016, as Lucas planned the auction of the remaining lots in the classy Woodlawn Park. B.F. Hull began purchasing property in Jensen in 1895, followed by the purchase of 758.5 acres on Hutchison Island in 1902. In 1904, he ran the largest bean growing operation on the island. He was the second superintendent of Sunday school held in Jensen's Alfresco Hotel. In 1912, Benjamin Franklin Hull married Lottie Maud McMurray in Palm Beach County. In June of 1913, Hull and 38 male early settlers, including Margaret Fraser's son, signed the petition asking the public to vote for the incorporation of Stuart. Hull, the governor of District 1, reported in November on the participation by Stuart, Palm City, Port Sewell, Salerno at the county fair meeting. In January of 1914, Hull had planted string beans on a large tract of land in Palm City Farms, and he rented for 1/5 of the crop, 7 acres on Hutchison Island, to, quote, a colored man by the name of H.B. Baker, unquote, who had been a farmer for 10 years and grew beans. The advertisement in the Stuart Times on February 13th, 1914 contained, quote, B.F. Hull Sons Development Company, contractors for clearing land, planting, and caring for grapefruit and orange groves, unquote. 120 acres were under contract for clearing by Hull and Sons by March 1914. Tomatoes were shipped in May by Hull from his Palm City Farms tract. Unfortunately, in June of 1914, B.F. Hull became ill with heart trouble, followed by a petition for bankruptcy for B.F. Hull and Sons Development Company in October, with proceedings in December of 2014. Excuse me, that is not 2014. That would be 1914. The Hull family's magnificent 7-room, 2-story residence was sold several times till 1981, when it was purchased by the current owner, John Edgar Sherrard, for use as his home and law office. The prominent 1913 home built with local materials has never been moved. This is a critical eligibility item. A 1-floor addition to the northwest corner was completed by a previous owner. Mr. Sherrard began the hands-on rehabilitation upon purchasing this historic structure in order to make repairs and update the interior. A second floor deck was added to the west side. The complimentary two-floor addition was made to the rear of the structure by Mr. Sherrard in 1988 for the library, stairwell, storage, with an office and restroom above. The original metal roof was replaced. Original exterior elements include predominantly clapboard siding on northeast and west facades, eaves, and exposed rafter tails. 8 double-hung sash windows with rectangular 6 panes over one. Arch-shaped vent frames containing stained glass replacing louvers with an east and north gables. Louvered gable vent on west gable. Cross gable roof and a prominent north gable. East, west, and north elevations, wall framing, door and window openings, except for additions. Foundation piers that elevate the floor and create crawl space under the original structure for ventilation. The brick chimney and generous fenestration that promotes cross ventilation and provides natural light. Original interior features include Dade County pine floors, except for the parlor, clawfoot tub and skirt leg stone washstand within first floor restroom, 10-pane door and 2 8-pane windows leading from the enclosed porch to the parlor, parlor fireplace with replacement marble hearth, surround and wood mantle, and predominantly Dade County pine wall framing. John Edgar and Patricia A. Sherrard continue to preserve and maintain their 5-gable, 1913 Florida wood frame vernacular style home with its wide L-shaped enclosed porch that was adapted for use as a Sherrard law office, including ADA ramps. This charming 2-story structure reflects the simple carpentry of regional frame architecture of the early 20th century and harmonizes with the environment at historic Woodlawn Park. This was listed on the City of Stuart Historic Register by the Stuart Historic Preservation Board on November 6, 2019, Resolution 9 of 2019 for the CRA. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have a presentation by,
Present the
oh, yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
John is here.
That's all right.
There are two.
Are they?
You want to carry this one?
Can we see? We see it?
It's
Oh,
a
wow.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very nice.
we've had those.
You and I.
East Stuart, but
Very nice.
Would you like to say a few words about your preservation efforts?
Well, 39 years ago, I wanted to move from Fort Pierce to Stuart. I love this little city down here. So when I was coming through, I thought I'd like to move my practice down here. And I saw this old house across from Kiwanis Park that was kind of dilapidated at the time. And I thought, you know, I really would like to try to restore it. So I bought it, restored it, lived in it for a while, and I've had my law office there ever since. And I really want to thank you all for recognizing historic properties. I think it's so important. Stuart's a great place to live, and it's a great place to practice. One of our sons, Trevor, is here with us today. He's going to be a lawyer as well, and hopefully keep the property in the family for a while. So I want to thank you all very much. It's a beautiful home, and this is a beautiful city to live in. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you, John.
Thank you for helping maintain our important city history. Next, we have a presentation of uses allowed in each zoning district. Mr. Freeman?
Thank you, Mayor. commissioners. Sometime you may recall that staff were asked to bring back a presentation of zoning uses by district that are applicable in the city. We've got a very short presentation. Also got a map that's been prepared by Michelle to show later, and a Excel spreadsheet which is available for questions if you require. So in the code, we have 19 different zoning designations. That does not include the planned unit development applications that sometimes you see coming forward. And those lie over the 13 future land use categories of the comprehensive plan. And primarily those comprise of 4 residential zoning, 7 non-residential zoning, that's primarily commercial, and also public, industrial, and hospital. We have the community redevelopment area, which has its own zoning districts, and there are 5 in there. And then we have East Stuart, who has its 3 zoning districts. And then the zoning districts themselves are, you can break them up into particular uses that are allowed. Residential obviously does what it says on the tin. It's mainly residential. It does allow some commercial, specifically in the R3 zoning district. Some very light uses going in allowed with that. They've got to be compatible with that residential use. Commercial, this is by allowed by zone PUD districts. The commercial PUD allows residential and commercial. The industrial allows industrial. The urban is applied in the CRA district. Public service is the a PUD, and a mixed-use PUD allows a mixture of uses to be put together from various categories. Now, I do have a map which shows the location of some of these areas. The red is the B2, and you can see that US1 splits the screen, and primarily the commercial uses are within that spine. The residential uses, recreational uses seem to hang off of that. So we have a spine of commercial and high intensity uses along the more intense area of US1. And that applies to a similar extent northwards, although there's a lot of separation in terms of where the city limits are applied there. In terms of the CRA, we have the central area of the CRA, which is the downtown redevelopment area, which incorporates the urban districts. And outside of that, we have the expanded CRA, which are primarily residential districts and low density and primarily single family lots in those areas. I don't know if Commission have any particular leads of inquiry that they want to concentrate on with questioning with this that we can maybe look into.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Yeah, I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Are there any questions for Mr. Freeman regarding the map or the uses in the different zoning?
No.
Okay.
No, I just get confused with a lot of it. So, but thank you so much. For the
I'll say, Mr. Freeman, this table was particularly helpful for me. So I like having that to kind of cross-reference when we have our different PUDs come forward.
We're trying to, we're going to attempt in some form to get this online so people can look at and understand the zoning uses in their particular district. So we're trying to investigate how that would work online.
Okay.
And also the map would be available online at some point as well. We're still refining that. It allows people to select various zoning districts and zoom only in on those pieces. But it does give a very easily accessible method of people looking at a whole and looking at the number of lots or the number of acres in particular zoning districts. So that's another useful aspect of being asked to do this. We've actually generated some potentially public-facing interactive useful tools.
Sure. And
So-
how about future land uses? Do we have a similar way to use the GIS for the land use map?
We can do exactly the same thing with the future land use map. And obviously, having done this first, it's a bit of an experiment to see how we can actually interrogate the parcel map with a zoning district map and look at the areas and calculate those from the information that we have. And this is one of the big benefits of having somebody who's a GIS expert in-house, because we can set our own parameters. We can investigate what data is available, and then we can manipulate that in a way that extracts the pieces that we need and doesn't have all the confusing pieces and elements that people have to go through just to find the basic information.
One recommendation that I would have, and be interested to hear what my colleagues think. I've been talking to the Regional Planning Council, and one idea that struck me was when we were discussing sort of the ideas around annexation and zoning, and especially around the periphery of the city along with the county border. There was a recommendation that maybe if possible with our GIS, how it might be able to speak to the county data layers. If we could pull in surrounding parcels, even though if we could do it in a way that's not confusing so that people don't think that they're part of the city. But on the other side of the city boundary, if we could pull in the county's zoning and land use so that we can see how they might be compatible or not, I know that would be a useful tool for me. I've tried in the past to open up our GIS in the counties.
Yes.
And in some cases where we have recently annexed property, they point to each other and they don't give me information.
Yes.
The counties will say, this is city property and I can't get the future land use or the zoning, and then ours hasn't been updated yet.
Yeah.
And so maybe if we could find a way to pull some of that information in, I think that'd be a good planning tool for all of us.
Yeah, we
Mr.
can
Mayor.
certainly work on that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Ms. Jett has done a lot of additional work. But so is it up to the point where, like, if a developer is out of town, they can go to the map set and hit something and they can get a accumulation of how many acres of R3 is either developed or undeveloped?
We don't have
How
that.
many
yeah.
acres we have in
Yeah.
the city?
We have, at the moment, the data that we've extracted just looks at the lot area within that zoning. We would have to do more work, potentially with the property appraisers data to look at developed and undeveloped. We can also, I think, extract building footprint area from those data sets. So there's a lot of information that's underlying this. The basic thing is that is the model that we then can align with other data sets that we're able to access.
Right, because I know some of the folks who had come in from East Stuart, there was somebody who was asking about that, and I know that they're interested in trying to figure out almost like a little Sim City plan of
Yeah,
how looking at what the different uses are in their particular section of the CRA and of the city and how things, so if somebody can know about these interactive, the more we get more interactive and
yes.
can pull this data. So thank you for your leadership in this, Kevin, and for your department's work. Thank you.
We're very excited about the opportunities which the mapping system gives us now, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we'll move on to the Shepard Park Buffered Shoreline Demonstration Project. And that is Mr. Tim Volker.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Tim Volker with the Utilities and Engineering Department. I'm going to be introducing Beth Falls. She's actually going to be giving the presentation. She's a research scientist with ORCA. The Buffered Shoreline Demonstration Project is a neat little project that ORCA and Beth will get more into the details, is looking to implement at Shepard Park, which will tie in nicely with the Shepard Park boat trailer parking project the city's proposing in spring of 2021. And Beth will be giving the presentation via Zoom this evening.
So I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ms. Falls.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this project. So much of what we do at Orca is we gather the scientific data that resource managers need and government agencies and need to make the best decisions about how to protect and restore our local waters. And we continue to do that. But what I'm really excited about is sometimes we do projects where we actually take the science and we turn it into conservation action. And that's what this project is. So the purpose of the project is to demonstrate how non-point source pollution, which is the pollution that just runs off from land, can be mitigated by planting a buffer around the site where the runoff occurs. And so we're specifically focused on waterfront property where turf grass is planted right up to the seawall. So we've been going out using the boat ramp at Shepard Park for many years to do our research and monitoring. So when we kind of finally came time to, I've been talking about a project like this for a while, but when we were planning it and thinking about the best place to do it, we really felt like Shepard Park was ideal because it's a high, it's very visible, it's very active, and it really serves as kind of a core to be able to then go on and educate the community in Martin County and Stuart particularly. So what we have done so far is we wanted to get baseline data on, is Shepard Park actually a good site to do this? And so we collected baseline runoff data. And how we did that is we just literally went and walked through Shepard Park during a number of major rain events. And what we saw is that there is significant runoff, primarily going into the 4 drains that are along the shoreline, but also at the one at the corner, at the eastern corner by the boat ramp. And so then we went back and we collected that water. We collected the water that was running off through the drains as well as over the side at that corner. And if I can have the next slide, we got our baseline data. So this is 3 different 24-hour collection periods. We tested a number of things, but primarily I wanted to focus on the nutrients. And so we measured nitrogen, both as nitrate and ammonia, and we tested total phosphorus, or phosphate. So this slide shows the baseline data. The left graph shows the 4 drains, and the right graph shows the runoff from that off directly into the water. So I won't go into great detail about what these numbers mean. We will provide a report that kind of can try to estimate how this can be applied to total maximum daily loads and those types of things. But these data demonstrate to us that Shepard Park is a contributor to nutrient loading of the waters that are right there. It's not like a smoking gun. We're not looking for some dramatic, we're going to solve this problem in one fell swoop. We think that it's going to be an incremental impact of small things that we can do, just like how we got here. And so the idea is that now that we have this baseline data, that we will go in and we'll do our plantings. So we have been working with Mike Flaw, the landscape architect. So we have a drawing that he's provided us. If I can have the next slide. So if we can move forward with this project, we will have these planting. We have a bid and we have funding for this. We have funding for the actual planting through a grant through the Schmidt Technology Partners, which is part of the Schmidt Family Foundations, one of our long-term funders. They're very excited about the project because they like these types of applicable projects. And so the idea is we'll go in, we'll do the plantings, and then we'll do follow-ups collections of runoffs, both in the drains and off the corner. And so we'll be able to document and quantify the mitigation, the reduction in runoff. So that's the main project if we move forward. The project would be to be able to actually quantify and demonstrate the value of these buffers. And then the next step would be a comprehensive education and outreach project where we would bring in lots of partners to then slowly transform the waterfront properties that are currently right on that have grass planted right up to bulkheads, that we slowly put in buffers or get property owners to install buffers so that we can slowly kind of start documenting the impact of or the reduction in runoff. So one of the things that we've done to kind of set the stage for that, if I could have the final slide, is that we have done a shoreline survey. And so again, what we're focusing on for this project is those homes, those waterfront properties that have turf grass planted right up to a hardened seawall. And we have done a survey in, we did a survey of most of the waterfront property in Martin County. I just want to make it clear we didn't do all of Martin County. We didn't go up into the canals, and in the actual Indian River Lagoon, we didn't go south of the inlet. But all the other waterfront property we have surveyed. We have documented the properties that would benefit from a buffered shoreline. And in all of Martin County, that's about 50% of the properties. 48.3%. And in the city of Stuart, which is where we would start, 63.7% of the properties currently have grass planted right up to the seawall. So if we could start to transform those properties, put in that buffer, the buffer would not only capture the first flush, which is what the primary purpose of putting in a buffer, it's like when you have a big rain, the first couple minutes is when all that pollution that's been accumulating between the rains just washes out into the water. That's the value of that buffer. It gathers that up and doesn't let it pass into the water. But the other benefit of this buffer on these properties is it keeps the grass itself, or at least a significant portion of the grass itself, from getting into the water. And what we know is that just the grass of all these 63.7% of the waterfront properties in Stuart have grass, some portion of that grass, every time they mow the lawn, is getting into the lagoon or into the St. Lucie estuary. And so it's St. Lucie River. So that itself is a contribution to the nutrient loading and the accumulation of muck that we see over all the in all of our waters. So the goal is to do, the next step is to do the plantings, do the follow-up analysis, and then again do this big outreach effort to start to transform some of these properties. So that is all I have. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Yes, I have a question from Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
First of all, I love this project. I think this is very much in tradition of what the city's been doing for 20 years, just going to another level. I only have one question. It's actually for Tim. I just want to make sure that none of this will do anything that will affect the structural integrity of the seawall.
No, it will not.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. That's, I just want to make sure. I didn't know. It's hard to tell exactly what's being done from the drawings, but as far as how deep it goes, and I just want to make sure it doesn't undermine the seawall. So.
Yeah, there is some grading being proposed, but nothing that will impact the existing structures or drainage that's there currently.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a very good project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two
Yes, Vice Mayor.
questions. So between Mr. Volker and Dr. Phil, I'm just asking these questions. Hope that what is the situation now between the siltation level that's in the canal? Do you know that? How much silt is deposited there? If something will need to be excavated?
I don't know that I know that specific canal, but we do have, we call it muck depth. And we do have, it's a lot everywhere. We are actually starting in January, we're gonna be doing a comprehensive study in the South Fork. And in that study, we'll be doing a comprehensive muck depth mapping, so we can tell you exactly how much muck is there at each site. muck is really the biggest problem in the lagoon or in the water, because not only is it make it impossible for anything to live, but it actually is a source of nutrients. And that's one of the biggest surprises I think that we've had over the last 10 years, when we were originally thinking we can just figure out where it's coming from and stop it. But it's coming from the muck itself. And so we have to address these things very comprehensively. So I can't tell you in that specific canal, but I would think it's significant. It's significant all around there.
Okay.
I can also tell the board that in the mid-2000s, the city undertook a significant water treatment programs for Fraser Creek, Poppleton Creek, and Kruger Creek, and dredged them. And when they started Kruger Creek, at the headwater of Kruger Creek, there was no biological life. And a year after they dredged it, there was actually manatees at the end of it. And I also know the street that Commissioner Matheson lives on actually assessed itself on both sides of the street. The property owners did, to pay for their canal to be dredged as well.
Okay.
This was several years ago, though.
Okay, so I was gonna ask some more about depth and dredging of canals, but I think that's good enough. Mr. Volker, just for us at Shepherd Park especially, what is our history of flooding in the park based on the water levels right there?
Typically, when we get the king tides, the tide will go over the seawall and sit and inundate pretty much up close to the playground. And then once the king tides recede, it goes back to, normal. So we expect to see that every time we have a king tide. I think recently we just had, last 3 or 4 weeks, it did breach the seawall.
And that sits for like 2 days?
I'm not entirely sure on the duration. I know Milton has some good photos of that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fail.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, Commissioner
Dr.
Matheson.
Or for either the doctor or Tim. I love this project. I've been very encouraging of it. I'm just thinking about the next steps as far as the education goes. Are there grants that individual homeowners might be able to get? Is there a way maybe the city can work with Orca and basically a homeowner, and they would go out if they're on a canal or waterway with a seawall and grass up to it, that they could take some water samples over a period of time? Is the education next step going to encompass that? And can we as a city work with our residents to try and, basically create these all over the city?
Yes, so we would love that. I mean, that's our goal, is to move forward and do a lot of different things. Honestly, I feel like if we do, our thinking is that the Shepherd Park is a demonstration project that shows that the buffers work. It's not absolutely essential to do the science on every property. So then going forward, we hopefully can engage the landscapers, but also property owners, because so we do have a grant. We have this grant. I think the plantings are coming in right around $25,000. That's pretty much money. But we're going to offer a menu of ways that homeowners can do this. So at my home on a canal, my husband and I did it for way less money, or we're actually in the process of doing it. So there's a lot of different things that homeowners can do, but certainly through working with you would be the perfect way to incentivize it, or at least to encourage it through your sustainability efforts. And so I think that there's any number of things that we could do, and we would love to do that. We do have a matching grant that we have from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program to get us started on those efforts. And so that'll take us through the first part of 2021. But we really want this to be ongoing until we could set a goal for that 63% of properties. Maybe we set a goal that we want half of those to have buffered shorelines over the next 5 years or something along those lines would be really great. And we will be able to do the calculations. I mean, we could do some science, but we could calculate the impact that that would have on the lagoon for sure.
Excellent. So there'd be a model. We wouldn't necessarily need homeowners to collect water samples or do that. They could maybe have a model, a menu of
Right.
different native plants to work off of and plant.
Right,
And
right. And we
hopefully
even
this-
have a nursery that we have been growing plants for our living shorelines, but we're gonna transition and start growing plants for that people could use for buffered shorelines so that we could give them away for free. And so we have a lot of things in mind to make this as successful as possible. And again, like I said, we really want this to be long-term.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Falls, I have just a couple questions. I know we're going to address the interlocal agreement or MOU with you later on. One of the parts of that was that the city would allow you to put up a sign or allow Orca to put up a sign. Certainly, I hope that it will be quite a substantial bit of signage. And that it will, be a good thing that the citizens can walk by and really understand what's going on, almost like a marketing push, so that there can
Yeah,
be some interest.
that's exactly the purpose. So
Right.
yes, like we want to be able to say buffered shoreline, keeping this much nutrients out of the water, and these are the benefits.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
And then and I apologize, you might have addressed this when I stepped out briefly earlier. Where's the nearest? Do we have a Kilroy monitoring station close by?
I know there's one at Palm City Bridge.
Okay.
There's one I do everything but Kilroy.
Okay.
But I know there's one. I can't. There's one in. No, I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's fine.
I could look it up real quickly.
Well, yeah, that's fine. And I know I had spoken with Dr. Witter and Dr. Falls before about potential program where we might be able to support a Kilroy. So for monitoring this, if there's, if we can have some more direct monitoring with, if it makes sense for you, to have a Kilroy closer by, maybe that's something that we can discuss up here later on as this project moves forward.
Right.
And then as far as the IRL, the NEP grant project, I wanted to kind of pick that up a little bit. I sit on the management board of the National Estuary Program, and I think this kind of project, if we were to maybe apply together for a grant, where once we get this shown to be demonstrated, and we had an actual program in place here, where, like you say, we have a goal set to convert a percentage of our grass bulkhead shoreline. It's something where maybe we could have it funded by the NEP for that citizen portion, for the homeowner portion. So,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks a lot. Commissioner Bruner, any questions?
Fine. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Falls. Thank you, Tim.
And Mr. Mayor, according
Yes.
to the Orca website's monitoring mapping station, it shows that there's a Kilroy monitoring station very close to the Roosevelt Bridge.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Not to lose steam while we discuss the water quality in our river, we have a presentation by Mr. Max Stuckey.
I'm handing these out. I want to tell you, I love watching this meeting. It makes it clear to me that you're not just a city.
Thank you.
We are a family.
Amen.
I know every one of you. And I know you all very well. And the reason we are all sitting here tonight in the middle of the tropical storm is because we all want to make Stuart the best possible place in the world to live. You have done so much. The first thing I just gave you is your list of things you've done for the river. And they're to be applauded. They're wonderful. But we are a family. I know I may have made some of you angry in the past. I hate this.
If you'd like to carry it with you, feel free. If you need to mosey.
Okay. All of you know me, and you've heard from me many, many times. I I've lived in Stuart since 1956, and I love this town and I have very strong opinions about it. And sometimes my opinions are so strong and my feelings get so carried away, especially about the river, that I take it out on you guys, and I apologize. I want to make peace tonight because we all need to work together. Mike Martell, my daughter was his best babysitter. Her wedding was at his house. David Dias, when I was on the Citizens Review Board, when he became the police chief, and now he's the city manager. And we need a police chief or a city manager, because what I propose tonight is that we not just have a city policeman to take care of on the land, but that we have an environmental policeman to protect our river. Becky, I grew up with your husband, David. You must be the strongest, most brilliant woman in the world, because you made David Bruner into a solid citizen for a long time. I bought my conference table from your furniture store. Mike Meyer's living my dream. He's got a farm. I grew up on a cotton farm in South Carolina. I was picking cotton in 1950s.
Where?
In South Carolina, in Bishopville, South Carolina. I was out there. We had one family of sharecroppers living on the property. There were 12 sons. Their last name was Wilson, and they were all of them were named after presidents. My best friend was named Roosevelt Wilson, and he saved my life one time. So Mike Meyer is at the ground floor farms, and we use that. And I hope we'll get chickens here. I don't know. How's that a big issue? Eula, I don't know Eula real well, but she's been around a long, long time, and I don't go to church that much, but every time I go, there she is. So she's a good one. And Troy, if I had done a lot of litigation, he'd been serving my process, but I didn't do a lot of litigation. I mainly do wills. But he married the daughter of one of our founding fathers, Bill Scott, the Merritt. His family practically created South Florida. And I watched him grow up. He went to school with my kids. So we're all family here. And we have a crisis. You have done a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job of making this land of Stuart wonderful. And we've got a lot of future. But the problem is, I was reading about your sustainability. And one of the things that's not on your sustainability plan is the protection of the river and the restoration of the river. We live in a wonderful place surrounded by a very dark shadow. And I have studied this problem for a long time. When I came here in 1956, we rode across the Roosevelt Bridge. There was only 2 lanes then. And that place was lined up with fishermen with, I swear to God, there were fish knee deep, all kinds of wonderful fish. So you would never starve to death in Stuart, ever. But I shudder to think that anybody would eat anything out of our river today. And I see poor people out there fishing for food, and it breaks my heart. And the reason I think that the only way we're going to meet our goal, and our only goal that's acceptable to the city of Stuart, should be that those discharges from Lake Okeechobee through the C-44 canal and the St. Lucie locks have to stop. They have to never recover, never start again. And then after they've achieved that, then we need to start making the people that put all this muck in the river, take it out, take it back to Okeechobee. It's great fertilizer, and it's got to go. You saw, if you read my presentation, there's a lot of material here I'm not going to get to tonight because I don't want to take your whole night, but I urge you to read it. My neighbor went to try to raise up some boats that sunk during Francis and Jean's. He couldn't find them. The little bit of muck that comes out of Shepard Park, it'll be nice if we can stop it from going in there, but all of these wonderful things you have done are wonderful things, but they won't make a very significant impact until we stop those discharges. And the reason the city of Stuart is the only entity that can do it is because the upstream politicians will never, ever go far enough. We cannot partner with the county. The county is half agriculture, and if you look at who contributes to their campaigns, it's Big Sugar, a lot of them, the ones that are in the majority. The city, if the city partners with any other government, even the Everglades Foundation, they will be willing to settle our case for a lot less than full stopping of the discharges and restoration. And we don't just have to, And if they will give us lip service, Ben and Meredith have been talking to the Corps of Engineers, and they come here and they tell us, oh, we're doing all these wonderful things, and they don't do them. We were supposed to get a decent reservoir. We got a puny reservoir, and it will, if they build it, even if they build it, they haven't funded it, it'll be inadequate, and all it will do will reduce the discharges. They have spent over $1.3 billion, the Corps of Engineers, fixing that dike and hardening that dike. If they would just keep that water as high as 17.5 feet, that would hold 4.2 times the amount of water that they have to discharge in a rainy season to us. If you look at, in your package, there are a number of articles. One's by Mark Perry. And it says they can send the water south now. There's plenty of capacity in all of the conservation lands to send the water south now. But they're not doing it. Why? Because sugar is keeping those places full with their land. They were stopped by the courts with a, sorry about the mask. They were kept by the courts from back pumping into the lake. So the taxpayers built all these treatment areas, STAs, and we have all this public land. And so the sugar companies and the Edgar, they put all their runoff there. Oh, they're not back pumping, but they're taking up capacity that could be used to store this water. Now, I have a building in Stuart where I practice law. I'm very proud of our building. It was one of the early CRA projects. I think y'all gave me like $3,000 to make it a nice building. But there's a hole on my property. It's a big hole. I could put 2 parking spaces where that hole is. But I'm required in my little tiny city lot to retain my runoff. Sugar isn't. They can put it in the public coffers. Now, the reason, Mark Perry told me that the only reason Mark Perry deserves a medal. He's been fighting for the river since he was a little boy. But he asked the colonel, whichever colonel it was a couple years ago, what do we have to do to stop this? And the colonel said, there's only 2 things that'll make me stop. One is a court order with a federal judge, and the other is an act of Congress. Well, you can forget the act of Congress. That will never happen, because if you look at what I talked to with Brian Mast is a godsend. He was on my radio show called Save Our St. Lucie, and he did everything he said he would do. And he's a Republican. You think Democrats are the environmentalists? Our Democrat environmentalists have sold us out. They say they're going to do stuff, but they don't do anything. We have one little Republican guy in Congress who won by a landslide because he's trying to do our water quality. Now, here's the thing. The Corps of Engineers has screwed up. It has screwed up the lake and all of the wetlands and the Kissimmee River for many, many years. We cannot do anything about that, and we do not even need to be involved in those discussions. What we need to do is have our Environmental Protection Department, which has one goal, and that is to go to all the meetings, meet with all the people that are involved, and insist that the only acceptable solution for Stuart is that the discharge stop. Period. End of story. We're not going to accept a reduction of the discharges. We're not going to accept treating the discharges. The discharges have muck and toxins and all kinds of junk in it. If you look at Gary Gorforth's presentation in my package, I mean, something like 400 million pounds of muck and sediment. That's another thing. When I built anything in the city of Stuart or Martin County, what do we have to do? We have to put these nice black silt fences, make sure nothing gets into the waterways or under. The Corps of Engineers open those locks and send millions of pounds of muck with poison in it into our river, and they've been doing it for 80 years. And they'll never stop, and they will never stop until the city insists that they stop and gets a court order, just like the court order that protects the Everglades. Now, I know you're making some progress talking to these Corps of Engineer people and all these other areas around, but the day that they say they will stop the discharges is the day, then you say, okay, great. let's all sign a consent order with the courts so that if you're not in that seat next year, that we have a court or a judge to go to and say, stop. Now, this is not going to be expensive. The River Coalition spent almost 400,000, maybe more, trying to collect $50 million under a pretty interesting theory called the taking theory, saying that you destroyed our riparian rights and therefore you should pay us. Well, $50 million wouldn't do much. I talked to David Guest. The reason I call him David Justice, Becky, is because he used to work for Earth Justice, so I got the two mixed up. But I talked to David Guest, and he said that he thought since the city owns all this property on the river, that we could even sue in state court for damages caused by not only the Corps of Engineers, but the upland polluters like Mickey Mouse. And he said we could maybe collect as much as a couple $2 billion to clean it up. So there are so many things that lawyers can do. Although listening to your employee of the year, I'm thinking maybe we ought to hire Michelle for this job because she could do all that in a year. Wow, think what she could do. But is Michelle wanting to go to law school? But my packet is quite thick, but I want to read you the thing that the River Coalition did, and I also put in there this recent Caloosahatchee Riverkeeper case where the courts, and it was kind of a consent order, where they said that the Corps has to actually look at data now. There's all these state agencies that collect data, and they said that, gee, the Corps, you should actually look at this data and see how much damage you're doing to the estuaries. They included the St. Lucie estuary in that. Didn't say they have to stop doing the damage, but they have to look at the data and realize what they're doing. So that is a step. There are court rulings that pave the way for the city to step in there. We don't need to prove detailed scientific evidence that the river is dying. The river speaks for itself. It's practically dead. If you look at my little cartoons, I didn't draw any of those. I have no art talent. I came up with the concept. The very last one has got the 3 sailfish, the sailfish ghost of Stuart. Well, the middle sailfish is where we are now. It's a mighty sick sailfish. And the sailfish future is a dead sailfish. And the sailfish is the symbol of Stuart. We do not want Stuart to die. And the only way that we can solve this problem is to get a full-time, and it will only take one. We will not need a huge staff. I mean, all the groundwork has been done for us by the River Coalition. When I talked to Mark Perry, he said he would support us good, but we need to get the right guy or gal for the job. I talked to Elisa Coe at Earth Justice, and I asked her, what would it cost for us to hire a really good, experienced environmental litigator? And she said, well, maybe around $150,000. I mean, that's probably, I don't know what we pay Mike, but that's the average salary for one attorney. And we've got Ben, who's got all of the skills to do all the legwork and gather facts and act like a paralegal and an advocate and like that. We've got everything but this one guy or gal that has some experience litigating in federal court and is experience writing legislation. So what I have done in the packet I handed out to you a bit ago is we can't just hire a guy. We just can't hire a guy and say, okay, guy, go out and solve this problem. We have to give this environmental protection officer authority. We have to give him the authority to do things. Now the EPA, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you anything about myself. When I went to law school at Notre Dame, the reason I went to law school is I wanted to right wrongs. I thought lawyers could do that. You and I know that that doesn't happen too often. In this case, this river situation is so wrong, and it's been so wrong for so long that there has to be a way for us to make it right. And our city commissioners, and our city manager, and our city attorney, you have done everything you can do as the city of Stuart to try to minimize the impact on the river of our development and our people who live here. But as long as the Corps of Engineers uses, here, this might be the time for the picture. John Sherrard protected that house because I used to work right across the street from it. Mechanics are not my suit. This in your packet. This is what the Corps of Engineers has designed. They have turned Lake Okeechobee, which used to be part of the Everglades, into a big toilet. They have. And their toilet is very badly designed because it tends to get too high. And when it gets too high, they just flush it. And it comes out the C-44 sewer pipe, and it ends up into our St. Lucie River, which is now the St. Lucie septic tank. They're using our St. Lucie River as a septic tank. We have tried to eliminate septic tanks in the city of Stuart, but we could take every septic tank in the city of Stuart and dump it into the St. Lucie River. If that stuff from the lake was not in there, the water and the tides would flush that out in a week and it would be gone. Right now, we've got 10 to 12 feet of muck down there. It's smothered the seagrasses, killed the oysters. The St. Lucie River is our best asset. It's the reason people settled in Stuart. When I was here as a child, I worked in a fish and tackle store, and the fishing was so good. Right over there at Shepard Park, there was a fleet of fishing boats, and all the captains were famous because they went out and they succeeded. They brought back lots and lots of fish. Now we've got a pretty much defunct electric boat place over there that doesn't even rent boats anymore. I've got a guy who's a charboat captain that would love to have that spot and put those fishing boats back there. But unless we have a policy of stopping this from happening in the river, nobody's going to want to be there. And nobody's going to go fish here. We've got all these developers that are building these beautiful condos on the water. Should they put warnings on their contracts that, it's beautiful, it's on the water, but you can't touch the water very often. It's full of bacteria and muck and yuck. We want the city to succeed. If we stop these discharges, the property values in Stuart will soar. If we make a commitment to stop these discharges and hire the people that can do it, then our property values will start to come up and we can encourage people to come back here. I will work with you any way you want. I'm not going to fight with you. You all have a vested interest in this town. I would probably I went to law school and got sidetracked. The EPA paid for my second year of law school. I studied environmental law. We had the Clean Water Act, we had the Clean Air Act, and the goal for the Clean Water Act was to have swimmable and fishable waters by the year 1985. Ironically, in Stuart, we had swimmable or fishable waters in 1985, but we don't. The Corps of Engineers in the South Florida Water Management District violates almost every part of the Clean Water Act. They are a point source of pollution, but they have these little exceptions to the rule that says if we put pollution from one water body into another water body, that's not technically a discharge. So that would need to be attacked in court. But let me read you something out of this court, the River Coalition suit. But I hope you'll read everything I gave you because I don't want to be here all night.
Mr. Stuckey, if I can, while you prepare those remarks, I'll make sure that we have a copy of your presentation for the record that the public can view. And after you highlight this, if you wouldn't mind just summarizing your recommendation, not only for us, but for the public as well.
I just want to read this. This is in the conclusion of the River Coalition suit. Court said this: the St. Lucie River is, by all accounts, a national treasure. The long-term environmental consequences of defendants, and the defendant is the Corps of Engineers, of defendants' massive discharges into the river are tragic, and the court takes note of plaintiffs' tireless efforts to reverse that damage. The court is not free, however, to ignore applicable statutes of limitation and to invent other property rights for private people. The two parts that this court ruled on, they said the 22 people who filed a suit, who were members of the River Coalition, they were too long. They waited too long. The statute of limitations was 6 years. And the court said, oh, we've been doing this for 50 or 60 years and we can document it. If you look at the second or third thing in that more recent handout I just gave you, Mark Perry gave me that. In 1930, the Martin County Commissioners asked the Corps to stop dumping the black water into the river because it was killing the fish. That was 1930. This is 90 years later. And they've made it worse. They straightened out the Kissimmee River. So I will summarize what my plan is because I know you have other business, but I want to be available to you to do anything you need me to do because I truly, truly believe as an attorney and as a longtime resident of the city of Stuart that the only way we are ever going to get those discharges stopped is for the city, who has a duty to protect its citizens, to say, we are going to sue you, Corps, and anybody else that's caused this problem until it stops, and never go. The stuff in the things they've done is kind of like the bombing of London, and we need to be like Churchill and say, we're never giving up. And we're never giving up. So here's the plan. It's right after my little essay, and the purpose. This is called the Stuart on the St. Lucie Environmental Protection Act. And the purpose is one goal: permanently stop the Okeechobee discharges and restore the St. Lucie River. One goal. That's the only acceptable goal. First, create a series of ordinances which are designed to prevent discharges of pollutants from any source. And you've started on that. Into the St. Lucie River and its adjacent creeks and wetlands. Create a Stuart Environmental Protection Department headed by an environmental attorney who can enforce the ordinances and hold hearings and subpoena witnesses. Second, research every state and federal agency having jurisdiction and the power to regulate the discharges into the river and also stop environmental damage caused by such discharges. Third, investigate private sources of pollution placed into the river upstream and seek money damages to clean up the river and an injunction requiring that such pollution be stopped. Fourth, create an action strategy to file all available administrative complaints within the state and federal agencies and proceed to develop the evidence necessary to prevail in those actions. Fifth, if administrative applications fail or solutions are inadequate, file federal lawsuit for permanent injunction and judgment requiring the Corps and other responsible parties to clean out the sludge in the river and restore the seagrasses. Six, once the restoration is underway, diligently monitor and protect from other sources of pollution into the river and remain vigilant to enforce the permanent injunction. This is a full-time job, a forever job. And it will take, and once we do that, our property values will go up, our quality of life will go up, and our health. There's also in your packet is an article where our CEO of Cleveland Clinic, Robert Lord, talks about how sick people were getting from being in the river. And it's more and more coming up about how it's being linked to liver damage and Alzheimer's and all kinds of things that are very difficult to prove for a fact, but it's highly likely that our health is being affected, not just our quality of life. So if we hire the right person that knows what they're doing and put them in charge of this, you guys do not have time to micromanage this. You don't, neither, and Mr. Mortel does not have time to do this on top of all of his other city duties. This has to be a person who, the moment he or she wakes up in the morning, the only thing they're thinking about is what can I do today to stop these discharges? And how do I do it? Who would I have to talk to? Now, Brian Mass said, when I talked to him, when he got reelected, he was going to have a meeting in December, and he was going to invite all the all the state and federal people to the meeting and say, okay, we got reelected now. What are we going to do about the river? And I said, what about Rubio and Scott? They seem to me like they're all in for sugar. And Brian Mass said, yeah, I'll invite them, but they probably won't come. So Brian will help us fight within the federal system. And we got our governor, for a change, is really in favor of environmental protection, and he put in a South Florida Water Management Board that will be receptive. So this is a time in history that won't last. And if we do not move to take advantage of it right away, the time will pass. And frankly, I do not know how much longer our river has. Something that algae got their attention. And just like they tried to blame everything on the septic tanks, what are they doing? They're not saying, well, we need to stop these discharges. They're running around with their hair on fire trying to kill the algae. But if they kill the algae, they might kill a lot of other good things too. It's just insane. They want to do everything and anything besides stop the discharges. And the city is the only entity that can be 100% for it, stopping the discharges. And another beautiful thing about the city is we're not Republicans and Democrats. We are nonpartisan. We're just plain old citizens of the city of Stuart. And we can work together regardless of any other outside politics. And we can stand up for the city of Stuart and we can win this battle. But I need you on board, and I want you to just use me any way you want to. With
Thank
that,
you,
I'll
Mr.
just close for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, Mr. Stuckey, your love, how much you care for this river and for so many years. When I think of you, I think of Mark Perry, and there's several other people that's
We've got the
fought
whole
for
river
this
coalition that'll back us if we do this.
for many years. But I want to thank you so much for coming here, and boy, you really love that river.
I love it, and I want to stop the people that are killing it, and I want you to help me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. ladies
Any
and
other
gentlemen.
questions or comments?
I'll be happy to, if you want to do a workshop, you want to do anything, but my plan is completely laid out in this package I gave you. It's taken me a lot of time and effort to do it. I'll be glad to fill any blanks you're not aware about if you want to contact me. I don't want to violate the sunshine law. For God, I don't want to be liable again. So let's just, run everything through the city manager. I can talk to him. And we need to move fast though. We have an opportunity now with the election over and the favorable South Florida Water Management District and biomass. We have a chance to make some headway politically as well as legally. So we need to get this person on board as soon as we can. And I really hope that you will see the wisdom of doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey. Commissioner
So-
Matheson, did you?
I want to thank Mr. Stuckey for coming and presenting. I mean, I've thoroughly reviewed all the information he's given us. Some of it I had seen when it came out. It's all stuff we all know about a lot, and it's very disheartening, and brings you down a little bit when you review it again. I have some questions for staff. As most of you know, I'm basically open to doing anything possible to protecting our river. I'm certainly open to what he's presenting. I was one of the biggest advocates for creating Mr. Hogarth's position. And he's correct that the job probably never will be done. We do have the Corps coming, first meeting in December, the only meeting in December. I spoke with Colonel Polk today, and man, I would not want to be in their position right now. If the storm that is on us goes hard east, you're looking at, magnitude of feet that the lake could rise. And right now, the S308, the locks on Lake Okeechobee side are closed. But I've watched it throughout the day. For example, the S80 went from 1,000 CFS up to about 4,000 CFS during my phone call with them. And I just checked about 5 minutes ago, down to 2,000. All that's Western Martin County runoff flowing into the C-44 canal. Reason of my call was to discuss my alarm of the tailwaters of the S80, which in Lore's 08, if they get to 3 feet or so, it's alarm for flooding of houses in, on the South Fork. I'm kind of digressing into my commissioner's comments a little bit, but they have incredibly tough decisions. And I watched the C-44 canal height just throughout the day go from 14 to now 15.4. So at 15 feet, the C-44 canal begins to flood residents. So they're just dealing with almost the picking of who's going to get flooded. And they did work with us a lot throughout the beginning of the summer, backflowing the C-44 into the lake. You know, maybe a river attorney environmental protection process is the way to go. I've expressed during the budget, I'd like to create some sort of fund for this process in the future. Perhaps staff can bring back some of their thoughts on Mr. Stuckey's presentation, and we can discuss it a little further once we've heard the Corps' presentation. What I've asked the Corps is really the specifics over the next couple years, not necessarily LOSUM and how that will play out, but the time between now and LOSUM. Because while that is going on, November 20th, I'm sure Mr. Hogarth can let us know, is another LOSUM PDT meeting. But it's really the time between now and when LOSUM gets enacted that we need to advocate as much as possible for our river till we see the cards that are presented to us. Lower's 08, you know, we're 12 years down from Lower's 08, and it's a document that, you know, either side can litigate over and scream about. But I'll continue to.
One other thing I wanted to suggest is that if we decide to hire this person, we should not just put an ad in the paper or however you advertise city jobs. We should have a search committee to actually recruit people to apply for the job. You can, you know, do your normal legal offer, but we really need to have a group of people who know what they're talking about, recruit this person so that we have a really qualified advocate who will be determined to do this and not just looking for a cushy city job that he's going to sit around and work 9 to 5, because this could be a 24/7 job to do it right.
And Mr. Stuckey, just to let you know, the hiring of a specialist attorney is exempt from the rules of procurement, so the commission can select one person without straight procurement.
Well, I talked to the Earth Justice people and she had a couple of suggestions. I talked to David Chest. I'm sure this is a very righteous cause. I mean, there's no more righteous cause than saving the St. Lucie River. And those people that work for nonprofits could be making 10 times as much money working for a big firm and representing the developers. But these people love the environment, and that's the type of person we need to have protecting our river and restoring our river for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm hoping we can work together as friends and family and make progress. We don't have much time. You saw the dead dolphin in my package.
Yes.
We don't know what caused that. He might have died of old age. It was a male though. If it was a female, I was going to call it Lucie, but it was a male. So I'm working on a little PR here too, and I'll have a couple other things going. But everybody in the city will help us. We will make money doing this. It will not cost money. We will make money doing this. The nonprofits and our seniors, our citizens will come to the fro with their pocketbooks in hand, and we will win this battle, and we can develop responsibly, and the river will be a wonderful place to look at again, and not the black death that it looks like now.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
Thank you very much.
So, I hear what you're saying, Commissioner, and I do agree. I think let's hear from the Corps when we meet with them and the Water Management District. And I'd like to talk more with county staff as much as we are able to hear about what their strategy is. I know some of it has been under wraps, and they haven't really wanted to divulge exactly what legal avenues they're pursuing. But I'll say that I'm open to supporting what kind of determination you make after the meeting with the Corps. So
Good. Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
Very impressed with all you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Not go for not a fix this river. You'll all be heroes. We'll have statues for you up front.
Oh, boy.
Don't say that.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much for your thorough presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to comments by our city commissioners. Commissioner Bruner, do you have any for today?
What I have is, it really got to me with Mr. Stuckey and our river and all that rain and the airplane, the air show. It's just devastating. And it's, we all up here and that live here in our town know the hell we've gone through at this river, and we've tried to do everything in our power, every which way we can think of. What he presented, we know. And who has the answer? I don't know. And again, I wanted to say how sorry I am that it rained so much for the air show. Again, the hell they went through last year and losing a man in a plane and raining. So anyway, that's, I'd like to have something on a better upbeat, but I don't. But anyway, I'll be glad when it quits raining.
You're here. Commissioner Matheson.
Thank you. We talked a little about the river. We did have an election since our last meeting, and I'd like to congratulate, our local representatives, Congressman Mast, for his reelection, State Senator Harrell, and State Representative Toby Oberdorf. And, I know I, as a commissioner and a representative of the city of Stuart, and we all represent the same constituents. I look forward to working with all three of them, and their leadership on, improving our water quality, exactly what Max Stuckey was talking about, and also on drinking water and the initiatives Oberdorf and Harrell have done, bringing home state funding for us here locally. So I'd like to congratulate all three of them on their reelection. I'll update my fellow commissioners on some stuff that happened at the MPO. And their Canner Highway, which impacts the city up to US 1 in Colorado, as well as US 1 stretch throughout most of City of Stuart into Jensen Beach Boulevard, are both on the radar for resurfacing projects. And so at the last MPO meeting, Commissioner Clark, who serves on it with me, was there. We requested to FDOT. So keep in mind, that doesn't mean we're getting from FDOT, but the request was for the resurfacing project on Canner Highway to incorporate on the sidewalk, it's kind of a stamped brick paver section. If they would incorporate that into the sidewalk as one of the requests to widen that sidewalk on Canner Highway, make it more of a multi-use path. One of the other requests was to remove the power poles from the sidewalks. For the stretches on US 1, I requested audible crosswalks during the resurfacing project, if they could look into that. As well, I'd like some feedback on this. We're going to be discussing this. And we let them know in a letter to FDOT that at our January meeting of the MPO, we're contemplating a request of Canner going onto US 1 instead of 2 left turn lanes from Canner onto US 1, 3 left turn lanes, and 1 straight lane onto Colorado Avenue. As I'm sure all you're aware, that intersection does have some traffic issues and backs up at our so-called rush hour. That suggestion came out of some advisory boards that made it to the MPO level. And we're going to be looking with the help of some of the Martin County staff and some modeling they're going to be doing on the effects of that change. And we don't know even if FDOT will grant that change yet, but that change would have a significant impact on us as a city, traffic-wise in that area. Those were the main changes. I'm just scanning through my notes here. We asked them to work with the city of Stuart in regards to our commercial corridor study on US 1 and coordinate that resurfacing to limit, resurfacing during the height of the holidays. But, again, Commissioner Clark and I serve on that board, and, if they do accept changing Canner Highway from 3 lanes to 2, we'd only have 1 going on Colorado leading into downtown Stuart. But from what I see and have heard, even if you make it through that intersection, Colorado still narrows down to 1 lane. So there's a traffic issue basically between the circle and the intersection as it is. So this may be a benefit down Colorado. Those are my main comments. I'd also like to mention, one more thing Michelle Jett did as far in her year's accomplishment. She was helped me kind of acted as a liaison between the South Florida Water Management District and my requests midsummer for some GIS maps of Western Martin County and all the projects that are ongoing out there with Alapata Flats and water storage and the Calkins Water Farm and locating them on a map. And I'll be sure to remember to forward those to City Manager Dias so you all can have them. And Michelle Jett was instrumental at kind of being that liaison, among the other numerous things she's done. But I'll leave it at that. And if any of my fellow commissioners have any comments or thoughts just off the top of their head on those turning lanes, that may come up in the MPO's meeting.
Well, I'll just say, whatever you and Vice Mayor Clark think would be most useful as you continue to work with them on that or advocate, if it needs to be a letter of support or, I'm willing to sign a letter.
Perfect.
Commissioner?
I want to add to that. I sat in on a meeting last week. I sat in on them and I forget which one this one was. I think it was a chamber, but it was the MPO, and they were talking about those 3 lanes and then the 1 lane coming in. And I thought, wow, that's going to be really tough. But then I was thinking that we really need to, and I know they want to fix it, is the road coming from Willoughby straight to US 1 would really help solve that, because that's going to be tough, that intersection, 3 lanes going left and 1 coming straight, because it's just so backed up. But we need some relief, and that might be the relief if they'll get on that. And I know that's a long time, or maybe not. Maybe you know more about that than I do, than we do. Maybe you could tell us or educate us if that's going to be in 5 years, or what the process is.
From what I've learned so far in the MPO, and I know we have some other commissioners that have sat on the board, but it will be a long-term process since we in the county have chosen to go through the MPO route. But perhaps we as a city, we might want to send a letter to the MPO board stressing that we really would like to see that Willoughby through Street become a top priority of the MPO board, which that discussion would occur early in 2021. So that might be something we as a city want to do just to encourage.
Yeah, because you would think, if they're going to work on that, then we have to have some relief here. And I think that would just be the relief we could get, because and especially if you live here, you know every which way to go to try to, to make things shorter, because a lot of people will just come straight through from Palm City down Canner, go over down Colorado, then shoot off to the left and then come back in and then make a right back on US 1 to avoid all that traffic.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's going to be a lot of traffic.
Is-
Thank you,
are you-
Commissioner.
I don't know if you're making some kind of a motion or if I know we have a joint city-county meeting coming up. There's MPO coming up also, I think in January or February, but that's definitely something that we could either do at a discussion deliberation or if we need to say something now, but I think that we should think about it, or would you want to?
I'd like to
Yeah,
add
Commissioner.
something to this before, because this is not the first time the discussion has come
Mhm,
up about, and whenever these discussions come up, it really makes me feel like the old guy. So, so back when we redid Colorado Avenue, and we did the road diet, we also, the state actually did a pretty extensive intersection improvement at Canner and US 1. And and at the time, based on my suggestions and a few other suggestions, we actually, and if I remember correctly, that we actually looked at the 3 lanes, 3 turn lanes, which I am all in favor if we can
Okay.
make that work. But here's where the rub is. Apparently, the way the turn radius digs into the turn lane going the other way. And so with that 3rd turn lane, the cars would be the cars turning the opposite directions. The cars going south, turning from Colorado south onto
Yes.
US 1,
would.
potentially have a collision course with that 3rd lane. And if you may remember, some of the intersection improvements we did at the time was there was no right-hand turn lane. They narrowed the lanes, and then and turned there used to be 2 turn lanes on Colorado from Colorado. They made it 1, moved the lanes over, and that's why when you go through the intersection now coming from Colorado to Canner Highway, you actually have to kind of jog to the right and to stay in the lane. So that way there was a right-hand turn lane to get traffic moving onto from Colorado. If they can figure out maybe make an adjustment to the intersection in order to get that 3rd lane, I think it would help immensely.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be just from, and I can't remember all the details. It's been a while ago, but I think it's something that we could certainly ask them to look at. Maybe there's something, because I believe, isn't there a proposed doing some intersection improvement there, adding a right turn lane?
So that would be a few years. That's not going to be incorporated in this resurfacing.
Okay.
project. That's going to, I mean, it is on the MPO priorities, but it's just not in the 5-year action plan.
Okay, it's not on
You
the
know,
tip?
yeah.
Okay, so the other,
You know what I would say? Before we go down the rabbit hole too much, is maybe we can add this to next meetings as an agenda item for discussion and deliberation.
well, and the only other thing I was just gonna say, I was gonna move on from the Canner Highway on the Willoughby. Absolutely, we worked very hard. I can tell you, me and Mr. Mortel had, and Mr. Nicoletti had numerous meetings trying to save the Willoughby extension. We had actually given the county $1 million, which I believe that we've gotten since the last 2 years. That money has come back to us, but there has been purchases of right of way. We extracted right of way as part of PUDs. A good part of that is done. There's really the biggest, most challenging section is from Monterey to halfway to Central Parkway, because there's going to have to be, there isn't willing sellers. There's going to have to be a court action to take property. And Martin County is not inclined to do that. But I think at some point that's what is going to need to be what happens. And so, but if it's okay, I'll go ahead and go on with the rest of my comments.
Well, yeah, let me just kind of summarize. So maybe we can have staff do an agenda D&D item for next meeting or the meeting after. And as a broader discussion topic, we can kind of talk about maybe what staff can help us guide, like what our MPO priorities are, and we can all discuss them. And then that way we can identify which projects we want to highlight or prioritize.
Yeah, as far as the turning lane, I mean, we can have a further discussion on it. it sounded, I mean, I was all for it. I believe it sounded like Commissioner Clark seemed to be for it. We could push for it, but we might not be successful is what I'm hearing.
I think
From
that we should
Commissioner
try.
McDonald.
I think it's just asking them and trying. I don't think we need to have a D&D on it. I think it's more or less just, let's just, through our representatives on the MPO board, if we have consensus, that you guys just push for to have them look at it. And then, you guys have, if we have
Okay.
consensus, you guys have our blessing to
Exactly.
say, this is what the city wants.
Sure. I just don't want to lose sight of, forget that, what was it, last year or the year before, when we had the presentation on the circulation patterns and parking throughout Stuart, we discussed lengthening the turn lane off of the bridge onto Joan Jefferson and kind of a revised traffic plan and entryway through Colorado. So I want to make sure that we revisit those plans just to make sure we're not forgetting anything, or if there's any right-of-way improvements they're going to make at that intersection that would jive with our plans for that southern gateway entry to Stuart, to downtown, I should say. So anyway, I'm happy to leave it in your hands, but it might be worth having us discuss it a bit more.
All for another discussion. And Mr. Mayor, if I could, my final comments, I wanted to have Mr. Mortel, just maybe in city manager's comments, review the proceedings of the case that Judge Middlebrooks presided over. There was an order that came out, and he could maybe summarize that after we're done regarding the Center for Biological Diversity and the core. But go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, Commissioner McDonald.
Okay, so, well, that wasn't really wasn't planning on being part of my comment, but I think it was a good discussion. Couple of things. With all the rain we've had a lot of flooding, and I'm very happy to see that the county has been doing a lot of work over behind the YMCA and along that you're doing under emergency construction. I mentioned it at one of the last meetings, and I'm hopeful that that will help with some of the flooding over on Palm Beach Road and Arapahoe and Apache that we've had. So I think that's good. One of the other things is I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by the Martin County Realtors Association, and they were several members were unhappy with the cancellation of the Christmas parade. So I explained to them that it was not the city who canceled it; it was the promoter decided not to move forward with it. So they talked about coming up with something that would work, and I see now based on and so I got them together with Jim Kowalski and with Dave Dias, and based on an email I saw today from them, it sounds like they put together something, a socially distanceable Christmas event in Memorial Park for the 12th of December. So I'm very excited about that. So there is a lot of pent up desire for the Christmas parade. In fact, I just saw this evening, I got tagged in a Facebook post where there's apparently a change.org petition that was started to get us to reinstate the Christmas parade. I'm going to call the person who started the petition after the meeting and explain to her that we're not the ones who canceled that. So, but there obviously is a desire with this year to have a Christmas parade, but obviously we're not the ones who canceled it.
As a point of order, although we're not the ones that canceled it, there is a restriction on large gatherings in the city of Stuart.
Right. So, I'm going to try to make sure I explain to that person, just so it doesn't make us look like we're what is it? The Grinch. The Grinch. I don't want to be the Grinch.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's I'm glad that we didn't get hit hard by a tropical storm. So thank you. That's all I have.
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to make a
It's
U-turn.
coming back. It's making a U-turn.
Like 3 of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor, yes.
Thank you. I see the hour. And first I want to say, thanks for all of us for making the decision when we changed the charter and we tried to do this first meeting of the month at 4 o'clock. And I know that the city manager arranges a calendar so that we can take care of certain things. So it may seem like it's long, but it's because we have that time. But apparently we've been using that time and we've been using it well. And I just want to say that, you know, it might be difficult for some people to start participating at 4, but it's really working out. And with regard to that, I just want to thank the city for still keeping the arts moment on the agenda, even though it's not a part of the charter per se, and to put up with, you know, us trying to do the best that we can to have somebody come by video. I try my best to get as many people who can participate as possible. Everybody has talked about the flooding and the environment and so many things that have happened, and I echo Becky's sentiment and Mr. Commissioner Matheson and Commissioner McDonald, Matheson and McDonald. So I understand those. Usually, and I kind of started out with Arts Moment. Usually I always say that Stuart is Stuart, and for the Arts Moment and for arts and all those things that get people to have a fun feeling for the city of Stuart. But I can see now, I don't know if I have to change or just add to that, is that Stuart is for sustainability. We had a video meeting with the Keep Martin Beautiful and Ann Ellig and so many others in the city of Stuart, Ben and others. It was a long time since we did the straw ordinance, but we got an award for that. And I just want to compliment Ann and all the staff and all of the city of Stuart and those who've created the sustainability plan. So I think that, you know, every sense of the word that we can attribute to sustainability in our planning on our everyday operations, as well as with regard to the environment and so many other things. I just want to say that the S in Stewart is also for sustainability. So, and thank you so much. And we thank the Keep Martin Beautiful and all the local community organizations who do so much to help our county and our city to just be more avant-garde and just be so very forward-looking and forward-thinking and appreciative of the things that happen. They advocate and they help and they do everything that they can to make sure things go well. I also wanted to just say that we've seen Miss Jet, and Miss Jet, I don't know, I guess she's jet setting right now, but she's not here, but she just did so much. And I think that the leadership of Mr. I keep forgetting people's name, but I know Kev forever. Mr. Freeman and so many others. When we had the joint city county school board meeting, the city had a presentation. I know that we probably could have done more for the time frame of that meeting, but I see that Kevin has the wherewithal and the really inner bones to get some things done. And I know that we'll be having more. And it seems like we're going to be asking you to do a lot more. I know that I still have to get with you on East Stewart for questionnaires for East Stewart, and also to try to get some answers for people who are really asking about land development, land uses, what's going to happen, and do some of those things that you intimated could happen with when we have all of those little pieces, almost like a jigsaw puzzle of where all the land uses are and how we can do some things. So I'm looking forward very much to working with you on that. And I just want to say that this meeting to me has gone well so far. I know that we're still a little bit long and we have lots of things to do, but again, for the idea of starting at 4 o'clock, it's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
And we did have a national election, and I hope that everybody is feeling safe in every respect. I don't know, I haven't talked much to the city manager or the police department, but I don't think during the whole time of early voting and during the elections or waiting for the results that we had any problems in our city. And I just want to attribute that especially to the kind of community policing that I know that Chief Tuminelli has been doing, and just appreciate our residents for everything.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I agree. I would just pick up on the election. We had a national and local election and some statewide ballot measures, constitutional amendments that passed. As far as our local elected delegation, I guess I could say, one of the, I guess the only thing I really am sore about being a weak mayor in our city structure is that I can't send a letter on city letterhead without my colleagues' support. But I hope you'll agree that I think it would be a nice touch for us as the county seat to send a letter of congratulations to those who represent us. Congressman Brian Mast, Senator Harrell, State Rep Harrell, and as well as or Oberdorf, and then District 82 State Rep John Snyder, newly elected, replacing Marilyn Magar. I believe still District 82 covers Spring Tree. There's a little bit of District 82 that the city touches, so I think it would be nice to welcome him as well. So if I have my seek a motion, if it's necessary to have.
I don't think you need a motion. I think just consensus would be
Okay,
fine.
great.
Just send it, yeah.
So it sounds like everybody's on board.
Yeah, and I've usually just sent them a note myself, but yeah, we'd
Sure.
like for you to do that. Mayor.
Okay, let's have a letter from the city congratulating them and looking forward to working with them.
All 5 signatures?
I'm sorry?
All 5 signatures?
Yes, please. And give them a real warm welcome. And returning.
Again.
Thank you. And I'll be heading to the Florida League of Cities legislative conference. I was hoping to do it digitally on Zoom, but unfortunately, our Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities President Vinny Burrill, former commissioner of Sewell's Point, did not survive re-election. And so I've been asked to step into his shoes and be the representative for our regional league. So I'll be going up there this week, and I'll report back what the Florida League of Cities policy priorities are moving forward. And I think this year, given the fact that we're going to be limited in our ability to actually go to the Capitol and lobby, I think it would be nice if we could work kind of a ground game at home with our state reps and senator and advance some of the policy agenda items. I know it'll be a slim budget year, but I think there's some good work to be done on at least on some legislation. So that's it for me.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Commissioner. We'll move on to city manager.
Not to continue talking about Ms. Jett, but I did want to add, because I don't think I heard it in her list of accomplishments. I had seen a really cool capital improvement projects GIS map on Bluffington, South Carolina's website. And I went to her and I said, "This is really cool." And she goes, "Oh, I used to live in Bluffington. Let me call the guy." And next thing I know, we've got that on our website now too. So it lets our citizens know where their dollars are going.
All right.
That's wonderful.
Just item number 14, there's an amendment to Exhibit A that I've given to each of the commissioner and also submitted to the clerk for the record. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
The city manager had asked me to summarize this lawsuit that an order came out in last week. The lawsuit is,
Make you can't hear you, Mike.
the lawsuit is in the United States District Court, Southern District. It's the Center for Biological Diversity, the Calusa Waterkeeper, and the Waterkeeper Alliance versus the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, specifically naming Colonel Andrew Kelly, U.S. Department of the Interior, David Bernhardt, National Marine Fisheries Service, and Aurelia Skipworth in her official capacity as the Director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In any event, it's an order that was on a partial motion for summary judgment, and it's pretty clear that the federal judge gets it. In his order, he ordered a evaluation and the Army Corps of Engineers to do a study and consultation to determine the effects of LOR's operations on blue-green algae and red tide and the effect of harmful algal blooms in light of the LOR's operations on the following species: manatees, their critical habitat, nesting turtles, piping plover, wood stork, and red knot. And the biological assessment will consider the following effects to the extent that they relate to the Corps' action: effects of red tide and blue-green algae, and the turtles, manatees, wood stalks, and red knots, the the effects of seagrass die-off on manatees, turtles, including how the loss of seagrass affects behavior and nesting, the synergistic effects of red tide and blue-green algae on manatees, nesting sea turtles, plover, stork, and red knot, the effects of Lore's water management releases regardless of the presence of HABs on manatees, nesting sea turtles, piping plover, wood stork, and red knot. The Corps will consider the following geographic scope in its biological assessment: Caloosahatchee River estuary and immediate outfall area north to and including Boca Grande, and south to and including San Carlos Bay and Mantaza Pass, Okeechobee Waterway, Lake Okeechobee, St. Lucie River estuary, and immediate outfall area in southern Indian River Lagoon north to Hutchinson Island and south to Hobe Sound. He then provides a map, and he's literally entered a federal order that the Army Corps of Engineers must do this, and it states, nothing in this order shall be deemed to preclude the Corps or the service from exercising their discretion to determine what constitutes best scientific and commercial data available for the purposes of the statute. Nothing in the order is deemed to preclude the Corps from or the service from exercising their discretion in conducting the consultation or as to the substance of conclusions reached as a result of the consultation. Subject to the foregoing, consistent with the summary judgment, the Corps shall identify and analyze the best available data and information on the role of hydrology, nutrients, water management, and climate on harmful algal blooms in Lake Okeechobee and the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie estuaries in developing its biological assessment. And then it goes on to talk about things it includes, but it is this is not a final judgment. It's not up for appeal. It's a process in the case. And unfortunately, he gave him a year to do the study. So the case is kind of going to stall during this study period, but it's very clear that the study can be challenged by anybody that thinks they didn't use best evidence. And it's also clear, since the Army Corps has already admitted that the water is toxic, they're not going to back down from that in their report. So from a standpoint of good news versus bad news, it is really good news.
I think
Yep.
so
Thank you.
too.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hogarth?
I was just going to add some legal hit context to it as well, historical context. The judge, as Mike was alluding to, the judge absolutely didn't hold anything back. He did as much as he could in this situation. What this is, in essence, is kind of a technical failure on the part of the Army Corps, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to do their biological assessment. That failure is really what the judge did the partial summary on. Ultimately, when you look at the Administrative Procedures Act, if you're a federal agency, a state agency, you have two things that if something is going to be determined to be final, a final decision by that agency has to kind of meet two primary justifications. One is it has to be a final decision of some sort. It can't be what you would call interlocutory, which is, you're in the process of kind of fact finding, discovery, making a decision. And then the second thing, it has to have some kind of clear legal consequence too. So both of those things kind of were ruled on in a case back in 2015 that also involved the Army Corps. So there was a lot of legal precedent here for this one. The reason why this case is such a win for us is because the judge didn't just look at the Caloosahatchee River, which has ESA directly tied to it. When you look at ESA mapping, which is the Endangered Species Act, for us, the Indian River Lagoon is really where the Endangered Species Act ends. It doesn't, unfortunately, continue into the St. Lucie River.
Right.
However, he still told the Army Corps when it returned to its biological assessment to ensure that the St. Lucie River is included in that assessment, which thereby probably also the Indian River Lagoon. So it's really good news for us. It was certainly a better outcome in this 7-page order than what I originally thought there would be. There's a lot of legal precedent for us to kind of look at over the next year, what the Army Corps does come out with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service now that that's been remanded to those agencies. So if there's any questions in the meantime, I'd be happy to talk to you even individually over time, a little bit more in detail, but also for the public's edification. This was a big win for everybody. It was kind of just catching the Army Corps in a technicality and the judge really having a favorable outcome for all of us.
Well, Mr. Mayor and
Yes.
Commissioners, the reason I brought this up is this is a very favorable ruling for us, as our staff has stated. I'd like to request that Mr. Mortel reach out to the attorney and offer any technical assistance on behalf of the city, just to have a conversation with him. This was mostly brought up by representatives on the West Coast, and I look at it as we're kind of lucky in a way that St. Lucie Estuary is included by this judge. But if, I'm hypothesizing right here, but pictures of manatees off of St. Stuart residence docks, pictures of wood storks in city of Stuart limits, anything. So, who knows what might come of the phone call, but I think the start of it might be our city attorney reach out to the attorney and have a discussion and see if City Stuart may be able to offer any assistance with this.
I'm into that.
And we did send out those 3 letters as well, thank you letters, if you recall that as well.
Yes.
So we did send that previously.
So I'd make that a motion if it's required, but I don't know if a phone call.
The consensus is enough. I'll call him.
I'm just
Perfect.
curious.
Yes, Commissioner?
I'm curious, was there a court hearing? Was this held in the courtroom, and who is the judge, or where were they at? Does anyone?
It's in federal court.
Yes, sir.
So yes, federal court doesn't have necessary evidentiary hearings. They do it by brief. So it was reviewed by a federal judge, and it's Judge Middlebrooks who entered the order. He's out of Fort Lauderdale, but realistically, it's his clerk that wrote it. But the fact is, it doesn't matter. We have an ear right now that we've never had in 50 years.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morto. Thank you, Mr. Hogarth.
Thank you.
Before we have a motion for approval of the agenda, I'd like to pull item number 12, the minutes, specifically the the October 12th minutes, for just a little correction, spelling correction. I apologize.
Move approval of the agenda, of the entire agenda, or that's the consent agenda? The entire agenda. I'm pulling item 12.
Oh, and we do have a request for a continuance on item number 20.
Yeah, that one we need to make a motion at
When
the
we get
time,
to it.
because they want a date certain, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can just,
Okay, I have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by Commissioner McDonald. Is there any public comment on the agenda? Any online? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll move on to comments from the public. This is general public comment, not tied to any agenda item. If you'd like to make a public comment about a general issue not on the agenda, please do so now. We'll ask you to approach Ms. Kindle and collect a green card, fill it out. I have one, and it looks like maybe two. The first is Ms. Julie Bjornson. As you wish.
Thank you. Okay, I know I get 3 minutes, but I wanted to thank you, one, for making sure you know the boundaries, because I put up 9/11 signs, and last year there was so much controversy on who owned the corner that I always put up my 9/11 signs on that I couldn't hold it last year. But this year, the county finally gave me the skate park corner. So now I've got a designated corner, and every year I have over 60 signs the times I've been attacked. I'm the only one that's doing that. The police love me. They make sure that I'm okay. So it would be good that maybe I could work together with you all to bring a remembrance to 9/11. I also wanted to thank you about the Shoreline project. Can I just make a couple comments about the speakers?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You have
The
3 minutes.
Shoreline project, I'm really concerned about. It's, again, they're going to do plantings, there's going to be weeds, and the phosphate comes from runoffs when the phosphate is basically coming from something they're using. And so it's really important to really know that nutrient source. And if you have non-compliance, there should be consequences, and you're going to really run into problems if you don't get these homeowners to first stop using Roundup, because we've got to get to the HOAs. I really appreciate what you've done. I went years fighting Roundup before you guys even got on board with me. So, and also with the lake now, with the Lake O and all the muck, a lot of that's coming because of the Roundup. They spray it on there. Tons are on there. It's feeding the algae, and it's causing the nutrient, it goes dead, and it causes all that muck. You've got to stop that Roundup going into the lake if you want to get anything to solve the problem, because it's got to be one step at a time. I have tried to go up the line. It's not the Corps of Engineers. It's not the fishing. It's somebody else. And I can't get there. But I have been to meetings and I have fought on my own. And thank you very much for doing that. The other thing that I would, also, we need mechanical harvesting. They will put you in jail if you try to take the weeds out mechanically. We have got to do mechanical harvesting. 1 acre of water hyacinth can compost 30 acres of land. I work with a biologist. I work with a chemist. We can do something. They won't let me do that. You know, so we've got to do something. The other thing I'd like you to do is water quality assurance ordinance. We got to start by telling the public that we are going to look at that water. We are going to make sure everything we put in our public water, I know you get, you know, like nice little prizes, but still look at that water, make sure everything you put in that water is toxicologically tested, that it's assured, make sure that you're up to date with everything and with the state laws. Because that will assure the public, just a water quality assurance ordinance, it will assure the public that we are going to maintain the quality of our public water system. And then we're going to look at the runoffs, because some of that is coming from the runoffs, from your public water, you know, can come from public water, could come from whatever. Okay, I'm here because of the Bible reading marathon. And this is our 20th year, and I would like to invite you all to come. It begins this Wednesday. We read for
I beg your pardon. We heard your comment about the Bible reading marathon, and we will look out for it online.
It's at the.
I couldn't get the proclamation in because y'all couldn't decide if we could use the fan shell or not. So now we're
I'm
using the
sorry.
fan shell, but I couldn't get the proclamation in, so the proclamation's in. So please
Okay.
give us
Thank you, Ms. Bjornson.
Thank you, Dr.
I got
Julie.
some cards to hand out.
Next, we have Ms. Helen McBride.
She's waited so long. Thank you, Julie.
Helen McBride from Flamingo Avenue in Stuart. I just want to take a moment to thank the Stuart Fire Department. This Sunday, last Sunday, between 12 and 4, when the rains was terrible, they gave away free fire alarms. And these weren't just cheap alarms. These were 10-year battery. And I know I went over because I needed one, and John hadn't come up. He usually buys them for me. But the fire department bought it for me this year. And when I went home, as you know, I'm with the senior citizens at the 10th Street, and I called a couple of our members, and they got on the phone and called some of their friends and neighbors. And that's what they all said. I know today at lunch, they were all so thankful that our fire department is thinking of not the coming for fire, but preventing fire in our homes. And I want to thank the fire department for doing that. And they had it set up greatly, and just very friendly firemen over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Thank you, Chief.
We see you back there.
We see you. We see you.
Let that be an example to the
We see
police
y'all.
department.
Both chiefs.
What are they
Any
going to
other-
give away for home protection?
Yeah, I got an idea.
Any other public comment? Okay.
The first person's in through phone, so I don't have a name.
Have your finger on the trigger.
Let's have our finger on the trigger.
Yeah.
Hello, yes?
Yes, hi, Commissioner. This is Mark Perry.
What a relief,
Board of-
Mr. Perry.
Hey, no, but it is a relief to hear that you've sat through a meeting and, you know, how much you've defended our river and our St. Lucie River and estuary over the years. And with this presentation today, and particularly the comments by the city attorney about the recent lawsuit. And I know Jacqueline Lopez from the Center for Biological Diversity. She's the attorney that filed that. And we're really use that as an example, because now is the time, as Mr. Stuckey put forward, and I so appreciate his enthusiasm and his passion for wanting to do something to save this river. And I know that that's instilled in each and every one of you as commissioners. And I really think that now is the time to do it. We have a lot of people in good leadership positions and throughout our state and even in the federal level. And we have the right time now to go ahead and really press forward. And apparently the really way to do that is through a legal action. And when we dig into the laws that govern our state, govern our country, and govern our waterways, we can really determine that this is the right thing to do. And we can get into really finding out what we can present to our lawmakers to make this right from the wrong. And I really appreciate what Max Stuckey said, and that is that it's been so wrong for so long. And I can attest to that. I moved down in 1957. I was 5 years old when my parents moved here and lived in Stuart, fished on the water, lived in the waters, water skied everywhere, caught a lot of fish and everything. And I just have seen it deteriorate as I've come back and tried to help with advocacy and trying to restore our habitats and things. But I can tell you the oyster reefs are really, really suffering now. And they're suffering, and so are the seagrass, because of these really, really big issue of the discharges from the estuary. Now, the discharges from the Lake Okeechobee are the largest inflow of fresh water and nutrients, and also for the turbidity, all the silt and sediment that's on our river. So we have to go beyond just the toxic algae blooms that come in there. It's been going on for a long time, and we got to stop it. And the way to stop it is for us as the city of Stuart to stand up and really take some action. But it's going to take research. It's going to take some research into the law and into what governs these agencies like the Corps of Engineers and the Water Management District and our state, and demand that water quality be met and that pollution stop.
All right,
you very
Mr. Perry. You can't hear the bell, but unfortunately you got dinged. So
that's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Karen Hall.
Ms. Hall, if you'll unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you, commissioners, for your service. And thank you, Mr. Stuckey and Mark Perry. We're so fortunate to have a lot of people that love the water and are willing to do something about it. My comment is back to Commissioner Matheson talking about the left turn, those left turn lanes, maybe adding one. That's busy there and backed up all day long. My concern is the 40 miles an hour. That's what it is there. I ride my bike around town. I feel like I cheat death. I would never want my children riding on the sidewalks. And I really do have that idea and the dream that a lot of us have to have a nice little quaint town where we do a lot of bicycle riding. I like the scooters. But 40 miles an hour, the people are coming canter into downtown, going on to Colorado on their phones, driving 40, and even when they're leaving downtown, coming back on canter, 40 miles an hour, it's too much. So I don't know who's in charge of that, but that's something for us to think about if we really want to have this nice, quaint downtown where we can ride bikes and ride scooters, because people do. They come 40 miles an hour right through that intersection, and it's so unsafe. So I just wanted to comment on that. It's too much, 40 miles an hour coming right into the middle of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. And finally,
Next is Michael Connor.
Mr. Connor,
Good evening, Commissioners. Hi, I'm unmuted, I trust.
we hear you loud and clear.
Great, yes. Yeah, Mike Connor, Indian Riverkeeper Executive Director. My job entails looking at this river that Max Stuckey describes to you every day. And I want to tell you, Max Stuckey, there's a lot of Max Stuckeys in town here. Most of us haven't been here as long as Max Stuckey. Sorry, Mac, to put you up there, age you, but I've been here 24 years and I've covered this problem, this river, as a journalist and as an activist. And when it comes to lawsuits, I was one of 4 or 5 fishermen that went out and fundraised for that riparian's rights lawsuit that I hate to say we lost that case. That case was dismissed in my mind. It didn't work at that time. And ever since, there's residents I talk to every day, including fishermen, just people in general, that say lawsuits don't work. But I have to disagree with that. I know that the Commissioner Matheson has suggested a lawsuit And in his good nature, he thought it wise at the time to let the Army Corps, which I will admit has come around a bit as of late, let the Army Corps come forth with a good plan like Lonesome. Let's see if we come out a winner in Lonesome. But I've done a lot of soul searching about this in the last 48 hours, looking at the river that I have the last few days. And I have, in my 27 years here, I've never seen it look worse. I don't think this river can bounce back from every blow it takes. I think it loses resiliency. I think that every time we have a discharge event, the ability of this ecosystem to come back is weakened. And I think what we're looking at a dying patient. And I didn't feel this way 3 years ago. Today, at this time, I'm shocked by how bad it is. I would encourage the commission to look at Max Stuckey's recommendation. And I'm very much also encouraged by my fellow waterkeeper, John Cassani, the Calusa waterkeeper. Brilliantly, they come up with a good tact in their lawsuit, and they found a good judge. And I think we can find the right judge, have the right tact, take the right course to go to court. And what confuses me, I'd love to talk to Max as soon as I can, and the commissioners, I'd love to talk to you. Will this be an all-in-one? We have multiple effects from this discharge from Lake Okeechobee. It's not just one thing. It is economics, it is estuary, it is ecological, but it's also human health. So still in the back of my mind, I think human health is still the bullet in the chamber that we have on our side that would surely sway the right judge, the right jury to get this thing stopped once and for all. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. We appreciate the work that you do as the Indian River Keeper. Are there any other general public comment? Thank you. Okay, I guess we'll go on to item number 12, or should we do consent with 13 and 14?
12 first.
Okay.
That'll be quick, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the first page of the minutes from 10/12, when I acknowledged Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, I mentioned the Ais, Seminole, and Jove, Jove Indians instead of Covey. Just wanted to make sure that we spelled that right since I went out of my way to, and with that edit that I would ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes from October 12th and the correction by Mayor Meyer.
Second.
Is that for the whole consent or is that just for item 12?
Yeah, whole
That was
consent.
the entire
We need the two. I think we
Because he
should
pulled
do-
item 12.
We should
I know,
pull
but then he
13
moved it
and
back with the
14.
consent.
Is it possible to do them all with that edit?
Yeah, I mean, they made the motion to approve the agenda with that pull.
Yeah, we didn't pull them.
Just make the motion on 12.
Okay, I'll make a move on item 12 for approval with the edits as requested by the mayor.
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner McDonald and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for
Move
that.
for the rest of the consent agenda.
Is that
By
with
voice
the,
vote?
is that with the edit of item 14 Exhibit A?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion to approve consent by Commissioner McDonald and a second by Commissioner Bruner. Is there any public comment on items 13 and 14? Seeing none. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. We're done with consent. We'll move on to commission action. Item number 15. This is adoption and incorporation of revised bylaws of the various boards for the city of Stuart. Mr. Mortel.
This is resolution number 126-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, adopting and incorporating the revised bylaws of the various boards for the City of Stuart, Florida, providing an effective date and for other purposes. As a brief summary, the bylaws were attached to the agenda. When you guys amended Chapter 2 recently, it was decided that the commission would adopt the bylaws rather than the boards. And we made all the bylaws as similar as we could so that paragraph 3 is the same in all the bylaws. And the other thing that I'll note is that when it said the duties of the bylaws within those, that actually came from the code verbatim.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner McDonald and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. My only comment is that I didn't notice anything in there, and I guess that's a good thing. I didn't notice that they were particularly different or anything, but if we had track changes listed with just strike-throughs and
They're completely
they're
different.
completely new.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, in that case.
That's why I didn't, it was going to be all
yeah, I
red.
take back that.
Yeah, that's why I
Thank you.
didn't do it.
Is there any other question or comment? Any public comment before we call the vote? Seeing none, Ms. Kindle?
Commissioner Matheson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Mayor Meyer?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mortel, for cleaning that up and getting it in line with Chapter 2. We'll move on to authorizing PACE programs. Mr. Mortel?
This is resolution number 132-2020, a resolution of the city of Stuart, Florida, permitting property assessed clean energy or PACE programs within the corporate limits of the city of Stuart, approving agreements with the Florida Green Finance Authority, the Florida Resiliency and Energy District, and the Florida PACE Funding Agency, and the Green Corridor PACE District, utilizing voluntary non-ad valorem assessments to finance qualifying improvements, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute said agreements, and providing for implementing and administrative actions, scrivener's errors, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Mr. Freeman?
Yeah, just a very brief presentation. I hope we've got the applicant. We will come up and describe it in greater detail, but this is a application for an agreement to be formed into the with the city, with 4 other organizations. PACE, and I'm sure you're going to get a better description of this later, is a property assessed clean energy program. That's where we get the acronym PACE from. They are programs that allow the property owner to finance energy efficient or wind resistance improvements to their own properties. The financing is secured through a non-ad valorem assessment, which is repaid through the annual property tax bill. Again, you'll get far greater detail as we move with the one of the representatives that we have. Improvements can include energy efficiency, renewable energy, wind resistance improvements. These improvements include, but are not limited to, rooftop solar systems, impact doors and windows, energy saving air conditioning systems, insulating siding, awnings, and hurricane resistant roofing. The benefit to the property owner is that the funds for these improvements are provided up front. A lien on the property is recorded for the value of the improvements and is then subsequently assessed on the property tax bill. So we've got 4 agencies requesting to be part of the interlocal: the Florida Green Finance Authority, the Green Corridor PACE District, the Florida Resiliency and Energy District, acronym FRED, and the Florida PACE Funding Agency. That's the end of the staff presentation. I will hand over to one of the representatives for a presentation.
Second.
I have a motion for approval by Commissioner McDonald and a second by Commissioner Matheson.
I'd like to hear the presentation by the applicant. If it's
You almost got away with it.
Sounds like we got some energy though, so maybe nice, short and sweet.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for having me. First of all, let me just say I'm very encouraged by all of the sustainability and ecological items that came up tonight. My background is I ran sustainability for Miami-Dade County and Pinellas County. I'm from Tampa Bay. And you know, the thing about these issues is they're all connected. And my past, I'd say 10 years in the private and public sector have been focused on the building sector, which of course has, yes, thank you. A lot of contribution to both our, what we call the air quality, the climate and everything else. But also, you know, we talk about tropical storms. Today is a great example. It's not a hurricane, but if you remember back in the early 2000s, we had a failed property insurance market in Florida. And so a lot of what the legislation was thinking when they enabled PACE in 2010, they still had strong memories of that situation with citizens, et cetera. And from this region of Florida going southwards, I think most of the PACE that's occurred has been around the wind resistance measures, which also have a secondary benefit of improving the energy efficiency because you tighten the envelope of the property, whether it's a home or a business. Since I don't want to waste time, I think you all have a great general background in understanding the value of this, but I can quickly hit upon a couple slides and then we can take questions or answers. So Mr. Freeman described it perfectly, very eloquently and concisely. There are 4 districts. Each of the districts have program administrators, capital providers. Some are just single districts. That allows the property owners to have a variety of choices on financing. Those districts are statewide. They were set up by cities and counties initially to create turnkey programs so that not every city or county has to run their own PACE program, essentially. So you are becoming a member or a subscriber to existing districts. It's also nationally in 35 states, roughly. Nationally, the residential PACE market has been the largest. We're looking at. Bless you.
Bless.
It's COVID. Up in the 6.2 billion range of funding. Energy being a big part of that. Resiliency measures, a smaller part. In Florida, though, it's a larger part. That's the third blue line at the bottom. Commercial, about 1.6 billion. The difference between commercial and residential in terms of how the marketplace operates is that residential is often demand driven. My HVAC broke, my roof is leaking, my insurance company said I've got to get it fixed. Commercial is a much more nuanced, educated process. You notice my mug here has a commercial real estate organization. Those are the kind of groups that you have to get in front of to get the word out. But ironically, the drive for the opt-in in terms of timing for this city is that there are 2 multifamily projects in our district looking to use PACE. What that means for you all is they have to meet at least minimum energy code. But what happens when we review the construction budgets is that we'll notice a line item, and in order for that to be PACEd, it has to be enhanced, or else they just can't use it for PACE. This is Florida. We're over 1.125 billion at this point in funded volume, 50,000 projects. And as you can see, wind resistance is 67%, as I mentioned before. A number of governments, roughly 60% of the states already participating, including Martin County, unincorporated. You've got the non-alarm sort of methodology of a process. The public finding of the state behind this was that there's, or the policy findings, that there's a compelling public benefit to these improvements, as I mentioned, the insurance piece, but also the energy piece. Multiple sectors and nonprofit in the private, when we say private, nonprofit and for-profit entities that have real estate can utilize PACE. Mr. Freeman already went over the types of improvements. This is just a breakdown by type. This is an older slide. Certainly economic competitiveness and trying to bring sustainability together with economic development. This is a good tool. We see some agencies around the state looking at that synergy. I think important to talk about, I'm going to skip ahead here. One thing to note, if we'd like to say that we disclose to property owners, homeowners specifically, that this may transfer upon sale, but it won't necessarily transfer. It's something just like you have a HELOC, needs to be paid off. The trick is that there's early disclosure in the transaction process through a Florida Realtors disclosure form. So there's a lot of steps that should be taken, and there's a lot of disclosure from the PACE financing administrators to that end. In addition, there are consumer protections on the residential side that are worthy of note. Because it's public trust, there has to be product performance requirements. You have to put a SEER level of AC, a minimum level of SEER, for example. It has to be permitted where necessary. Fair pricing, we're looking at a big database of projects, and we're looking to see what is within range. Confirmed terms calls for the property owners. This is different than standard conventional financing. They need to know what they're getting into. Every transaction has a confirmed term call, and there's a 3-day right to cancel built in, and dispute resolution. So that's a public trust once again. Contractors have to deliver on a full execution of the project. There has to be a sign off and satisfaction. And even after that fact, if I notice my windows are not properly installed, I'm going to call, guess who? The PACE company. They're going to call the contractor, and that's going to get resolved. Example of a coastal, this is in Broward County, case study. You notice the drop in the property insurance savings. When you're in that kind of situation, that can make a lot of difference, but it also helps with the electric bill with the tighter envelope. This is a nursing home. We just finished a ALF retrofit in the Miami area last year. We're able to get better AC into the system, an AC project, which in COVID's time, there's a strong correlation. If you have a energy efficient building with a good HVAC system, you're going to be much more able to handle COVID effectively with the flushing out, with the capacity for ventilation. So it all ties together. That is a resiliency strategy. So typical things, HVAC, chiller. This is the nursing home in Miami I mentioned. It allowed the scope to go to 3.7 million. It was much more synergistic scope. This is a multi-tenant retail in Northeast Florida, a mall project. And there's several other case studies, but this will be multifamily that's looking to do this in Stuart. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner.
If we have a multifamily project that's doing this, it's also in our CRA. And they also happen to be taking part in our RETA program. So they would get some up to 50% of the taxes they pay and credit back. Are they gonna?
If I can chime in on the RETA program, the person receiving a benefit in the RETA program must pay 100% of their tax that's due. And then our finance department will actually cut them a check back from the taxes we receive. So they don't actually take it as a tax deduction. They pay full tax and then get it refunded.
Including this non-ad valorem assessment.
Would it include this not ad valorem though, or not?
No, it's just the TIF.
Okay.
They would have to pay the non-ad valorem.
They'll pay
They'll
that.
pay
They're
100%
only
of
getting-
this assessment. They're not getting any of this assessment paid
The
back.
only benefit they get in the RETA is whatever percentage of the TIF, which is 90% of the appreciated value of the current tax base.
Mm. So this non-ad valorem assessment won't be included.
Right.
Correct. It's a financing repayment. It has to be paid for. It does not doesn't call for discounts. It's
Now, if I'm talking to city residents and they're interested in this program, they come to me as a commissioner, our development department, we're going to direct them to you?
Sure, you can,
Or
what can also happen is the city could have a web page, which is simply a listing of the active districts, and that can then link to external sites, which are the districts themselves. And we can, I'm happy to, yeah. So,
I mean, that sounds good if there's just a link on our website for the PACE programs. There's some way that we can direct our residents.
sure. I mean, I work with economic development teams and chambers and all that too. That's another way to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions?
No, I think it's a great way to finance energy efficient improvements and wind mitigation measures. So
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to follow up on the marketing piece. I think let's just make sure that we have this, prominently displayed somewhere, or maybe even have a little pamphlet up in the development office so that when folks come by, they can see it, know that it's there. All right. Is there any public comment before we call the vote? Thank you, sir. Seeing none, Ms. Kindle, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 17. This is adopting a sustainability action plan for the city of Stuart. Mr. Mortel.
This is resolution number 135-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, adopting a sustainability action plan, or SAP, creating a green task force comprised of staff members to primarily assess the progress of the plan implementation, authorizing the city manager in collaboration with the Green Task Force and community partners to pursue policies, programs, and projects furthering plan goals and objectives, providing for comprehensive review within 5 years of the plan adoption, providing for an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel.
is there any changes? I mean, besides what we did at the,
Well, we'll ask for staff. Are there any changes, Mr. Hogarth?
besides what's in the, present it to
Hey,
us?
Commissioners, again, Ben Hogarth for the record. And Ann's here as well in case there's any other questions. We had about 30 points that we addressed, and in some of the red line that you may all have seen in the email back and forth. So all of that was just comments from the workshop, and we appreciate how much feedback we had. It took us quite a significant amount of time to go through. The one other major addition, other than those comments, was something that Commissioner McDonald had brought to our attention, and it was in reference to kind of like economic development in the future, how that would look. So you'll see a section, I think that's number 5, branch 5. I'm trying to use the right vernacular here now with our plan. So the 5th branch has to do with the built environment. And so we've included now an economic development element. In essence, what it is just a way for the BDB, especially locally here, maybe in the future with Enterprise Florida or even Visit Florida, to try and get more attention to the city of Stuart. If we don't already have enough, right, in the country right now with all the awards we've gotten, this is more catered towards future businesses, other, sustainable businesses, sustainable industries, maybe to make the city kind of an attractive spot for some of those. And we already have existing businesses in the city that are sustainable, but this would be a way for the BDB to help facilitate more of that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Hogarth.
You know, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I know that you've worked really hard on this, and I know this is one of your top priorities. May I just make a suggestion that
Please.
before we approve this, that you pass the gavel to the vice mayor and you make the motion to approve it? Because I know that how much you care about this, so.
Oh, that's sweet. Or did you find a big error in there and you want me to? You want me to be the one that goes down in flames?
Always thinking.
Thank you. I appreciate that offer, and I will do that if my colleagues allow me. The one suggestion I had, overall, I think it's great. I mean, this is a very thorough document. I like that it's got some hard goals and targets. There's a lot of open-ended for future development. I like that it adds in that 5-year kind of review period. There was just one thing, and it kind of like permeated through, and I don't want to pick individual pieces, but it was with education for natural resources, with the programs that specifically says offer educational programming, and then it went on to say that we'll partner with University of Florida IFAS and other organizations. And I think just so that we can be careful again, I don't think we're at a point now where the city is going to be offering any educational programming, but maybe encourage or partner or whatever. I mean, it seems like a small change, but I would rather us seek ways to promote the existing educational organizations out there and work with them and partner with them and promote them, rather than this being something that, might have to one day fall under Mr. Krolsky, your
Totally
purview.
That'd be a simple change.
Yeah,
We
simple
can-
change.
And I think the fact that we're doing this, I'm not sure it's because we're doing this, but I pulled the trigger today and we signed the contract to put solar panels on our house. So I'm going to be solar electric by the end of the year. So I need that permit by the end of the year. to get the tax deduction.
It's a no-cost permit.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, well, sure. How about I do that? I'll pass the gavel over to my.
In just of COVID, I'll virtually take the gavel.
And thanks again. Yeah, so I'll pass the gavel so that I can make a motion to approve our Sustainability Action Plan Resolution number 135, 2020.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion and a second. Are there any comments? We've asked for comments already? No? Any comments from the public with regard to motion that has been moved and seconded? No other comments from the commissioners?
Just thank all of the members of the committee again.
S is for sustainability.
Any comments online?
Any comments online? Thank you. Clerk? Oh, did we read it? Was I sleeping?
Yep.
We read.
We didn't read
I
the
know.
whole thing. It's
I
quite
was-
large,
It
but
might have been in the room. Okay, so
Okay.
Mike has made it already. Okay, good.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer,
yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yes, congratulations.
On behalf of the committee, thank you.
You can desanitize and get back in the groove.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hogarth. Thank you, Ms. Ellig, all of the staff that worked hard on this. And to my commissioners, thank you. It's an important step forward. Okay, we'll move on to item number 18. City Attorney is requesting to schedule an attorney-client meeting with the city commissioners and city manager in accordance with section 286.0118 of Florida statutes. Mr. Mortel.
Essentially, you have to be in active litigation in order to meet with the commissioners to discuss strategy in a private setting. I'm asking the commission to schedule this for just prior to our next meeting, during which it's my intention to discuss with you the case of Northside Marina Venture LLC versus the city of Stuart. I'm not sure how the other cases ended up in the agenda item, but I might as well comment on them now. Water's Edge Recovery versus the city of Stuart. I crushed that case and won every issue. And
Can you repeat
Good
that?
thing, 'cause you got your raise in advance.
and the city of Stuart versus Harbridge Cottages resulted in a settlement that the commission resolved with them. Any event, the only one that I actually need to talk to you about is the Northside Marina Venture case. And I don't know if the city manager still needs to discuss the PBA union negotiations.
I do.
Okay, so prior to the meeting, and let me just give a brief summary of how this works. I have to have a court reporter present. The only people that can be there is the city manager, myself, and the city commissioners. The court reporter will stenograph everything that we say. Those transcripts will be held as confidential transcripts until, for example, if we discuss Northside Marina first, that portion of the transcript will be held confidential until the case is solved. If we discuss PBA union first, that portion of the transcript will be held until the union negotiations are resolved, and then they'll be made a public record and they'll be available to the public. But this gives me an opportunity to strategize with the commission and get your opinions and direction without kind of blowing our theory in the case.
Mike, Dave, I think if I remember correctly, I thought with the union negotiation discussion, there actually isn't a court reporter present for that. There wasn't, I think those are done differently.
We'll look into that. I know
But
I have to
I
get the
just
court
think that
reporter, so
from
there's
a
going to be a court reporter
perspective-
there if we could do
Right.
it
I
either
just
way.
think that- I thought that
Right.
there was some special rules for the union one, so
Okay.
just want to make sure that we do that correctly. But I'll move to approve the item 18.
Second.
By the way, we can talk about this too. Do you guys want to start it at 5:30 or do you want to start at 5?
Let's do it at 5, so we can have that and then get to our regular meeting if we can.
Okay, so we'll do it at 5.
So I'll make that part of my motion.
Second.
So this will be at 5 in advance of the second November
Right.
meeting.
What'll happen is we'll come out, call it to order, and then we'll adjourn and go into chambers, have the discussion, and then return again and conclude that
Do you think-
special meeting.
Do you think half hour is sufficient?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a lot of stuff. I
Well,
just
you know
need-
how I like to drag things on.
Well, we can, by the
so-
way, you and I can talk after the
All right.
meeting too.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Ms. Kendall, you have the motion maker and the second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this motion? Any online? Seeing none. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 19. This is ordinance second reading, our land development code text amendment for R2 and R3 zoning districts. Mr. Mortel?
This is ordinance number 2454-2020, an ordinance of the city of Stuart, Florida, amending section 2.04.00 of the Land Development Code entitled Area Impervious Surface, Setback and Height Requirements of Chapter 2, Table 5, entitled Residential Area Impervious Surface Coverage Setbacks and Height Requirements, and section 2.04.02 of the Land Development Code entitled Supplemental Area Requirements in respect of standards for lot size, lot width, and building setbacks for the R2 and R3 zoning districts, providing repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date and for other purposes. I don't believe there's been any changes since first reading.
There were changes that were made from the first reading that were made in the motion, which were changes to the front and rear setbacks of R3, and we made those changes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. So staff has described the changes that were made since first reading.
Move for approval.
I
Second.
have a motion for approval by Commissioner McDonald and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. My only question, I guess, or maybe a point, maybe that we can start walking down this road. I had spoken with Mr. Freeman while we're looking at our minimum lot area, setbacks, all that. I didn't, maybe this table is not the right place to contemplate it, or maybe it's not in here at all. But I wanted us to start discussing accessory structures, accessory dwelling units. I know that's something that staff has brought up, and so I'd like to give staff whatever direction they need in order to start working on that, so that we can deliver that for our neighborhoods, as well as the potential for tiny homes, whether that is to be defined as an accessory dwelling unit, or what our options are around having that also be a main residence structure in residential zoning. So
You need a motion to try to bring that back?
I see staff nodding, but I
You don't
mean,
need a motion. As long as the staff gets a consensus, they can put anything they want.
Okay,
do we feel good on going down that road?
start working on it.
They understand.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you. Are there any direct questions on this second reading?
No,
Before I call the
sir.
vote?
They made the changes we requested.
Do we have any public comment before I call the vote? Any online? Seeing none? Ms. Kindle, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
I'll move to continue the last item to the date requested.
Do I have a second?
Second,
I have a motion by Commissioner McDonald to continue item number 20 to date certain of November 23rd, 2020, and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. Any public comment on the continuance of item number 20? Any online? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:13 PM.
If I could just, before we adjourn, mention.
I will unadjourn.
I'm sorry, just mention to the commission that we are going to have Veterans Day is this Wednesday. And just as important as Veterans Day is this Thursday, which is the city manager's birthday.
Oh.
So let's go back to
Welcome to
Veterans
work.
Day.
We
There's a
won't come to
service
work
at
then.
11 o'clock at Memorial Park.
Was it last year the big one?
Oh, no.
No?